2024. This is the live broadcast of the National Assembly proceedings, the Wednesday morning sitting. And this is a broadcast that is taking place at the Parliament buildings in Nairobi. This broadcast is brought to you live by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Welcome for the National Assembly proceedings. On the order of business this morning, the leader of the majority party, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, is set to move a procedural motion. This is to have a exemption of a specified business from Standing Order number 43. Standing Order number 40, paragraph 3. This is with regards to sequence of proceedings, and on this particular order, the leader of the majority party will be seeking to have the House exempt the business, that is the consideration of a nominee for appointment as the Inspector General on the National Police Service. In a special motion, the leader of the majority will be moving this procedural motion to have this special motion exempted from the provisions of Standing Order number 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for businesses not sponsored by the majority or minority party, or business sponsored by a committee. And in this order, it indicates that on Wednesday morning, a bill or a motion not sponsored by the majority or a minority party or by a committee shall have precedence over all other business in such order as the House Business Committee shall ballot. So in this particular procedural motion, the Honorable Majority Leader will be seeking to have this particular business on the special motion be exempted from these particular provisions of the Standing Order number 40, paragraph 3. And with regards to this is that the House will this morning then be able to consider the findings of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Affairs, or rather Relations, in its report that was tabled on the House on the vetting of Douglas Kanja Kirocho for approval as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. This is a report that was laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 17th September 2024, that is yesterday in the afternoon sitting, and will be seeking to have the House approve the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. So that is a special motion that this morning, following that procedural motion, then members will be able to consider as per lined up in the order of business for the members of the National Assembly this morning. Pursuant to the House Standing Order number 44, paragraph 2, subparagraph C. This is with regards to the statement. 44, paragraph 2, subparagraph C indicates that a member may request for statement from a committee chairperson relating to matters under the mandate of the committee, which shall be made within 21 days of the request or such shorter period as the Speaker may direct. And pursuant to this House Standing Order, then there are members of the National Assembly this morning who will be seeking a statement. The Honorable Adan Kainan, MP for Elders. Statement will be to the relevant committee, that is the Administration and Internal Security. This with regards to the disappearance of Honorable Yusuf Hussein, Member of County Assembly for Dela Ward. The Honorable Member for Igembe Central, Honorable Daniel Karitho, his statement will be on the compensation claims for destruction of crops caused by wildlife. This one will be forwarded to the relevant committee, that is the Tourism and Wildlife. Also, the Honorable Member for Kinango, Honorable Gonzi Rai, has a statement on the deterioration of the Marere Bridge in Kwale County. This will be forwarded to the Transport and Infrastructure. The Honorable Member for Lurambi Titus Hamala. His statement is on the reduction of sugarcane prices by the Agriculture and Food Authority. The Honorable Member for Kakamega County, Honorable Elsie Muhanda. Her statement is on the interim cane price for the month of August 2024 set by the Agriculture and Food Authority. Honorable Marianne Keitani for Aldai. Her statement is on the delay of the Maendeleo ya Wanawake elections. Also, the Honorable Member for Alego Songa, Honorable Samuel Atandi, will also be seeking or has this statement for the Administration and Internal Security Committee on Insecurity in Alego Usonga constituency. Also, the Honorable Member for Alego Usonga will be seeking responses from the Administration and Internal Security on the tragic death of Tom Adala, Assistant Director, NIS. Honorable Samuel Arama from Nakuru Town. He will be seeking responses from the administration, the Committee on Administration and Internal Security on the arrest and death of Mr. Alfred Nyakeko. Honorable Mark Monje from Embakasi West. Still from the same Committee on Administration and Internal Security. The statement is with regards to fire incidents in Nairobi County. And the Honorable Member for Konoin, Honorable Brighton Yagon, also responses from the Administration and Internal Security Committee with regards to disappearance of Frenda Chepngeno, student at Catholic University of East Africa. This is with regards or pursuant to the House Standing Order number 44, paragraph 2, part C, that these members will be seeking responses to this morning from the relevant committees. But as you can see, that is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Gladys Boss. The mess is ahead of her. She's making her way into the chambers. She will be presiding over this morning sitting. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast that is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with KBC. Good morning.
Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Sergeant at Arms, you can ring the bell for 10 minutes.
The prayer has been said and the chair has been taken, but the House lacks the requisite quorum. That is the Majority Chief Whip. Honorable Silvana Sosoro was just walked out of the chambers. Of course, he is expected to be whipping the members who may be within the precincts of Parliament but have not yet made their way into the chambers to whip them. And have them make their way into the chambers to allow the House achieve that required number for the House to commence its business. 50 members are needed inside the chambers. So what we will be seeing from now until when that quorum is achieved is members will be making their way into the chambers. The sergeant are also keeping tabs with the numbers. Once that quorum is achieved, then the business will commence. The members of the National Assembly this morning will also consider, or we will have the Environmental Professionals Institute of Kenya bill, a bill originating from the National Assembly, bill sponsored by the Honorable George Gachagua. This is a bill that is lined up for first reading. But the principal object of this bill is to provide for a legal framework for the establishment of the Environmental Professionals Institute of Kenya. And that will be seeking to promote professionalism within the environment profession and to also provide mechanisms for registration, licensing, regulation, and professional development of environmental professionals. This is a bill that is coming up for first reading on the floor of the House this morning before it proceeds to the next stage. There is also a bill by the Honorable Member Martha Wangari. This is a bill on the births and deaths registration amendment bill, also a bill originating from the National Assembly, coming up for first reading. The births and deaths registration amendment bill number 37 of 2024 seeks to provide that the Cabinet Secretary shall establish at least one births and deaths registration office in each constituency. Currently, there are only 143 births and deaths registration centers in the country, and therefore this service may not be reasonably accessible to all parts of the country as required by the Constitution. So this is a bill that seeks to have the Cabinet Secretary establish at least one births and deaths registration office in each constituency, of course, to allow for efficiency in service delivery. So that is also a bill that has been lined up for first reading on the floor of the National Assembly this morning once the House begins its business. As indicated earlier, is that the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs, together with the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations, tabled their report to the House. Senate concluded on this particular business, and the National Assembly is this morning set to also conclude on this business, that is consideration of the report from this committee of a nominee for appointment as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. In their recommendations, the committee indicates that it considered the suitability, competence, experience, and integrity of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho, and following the approval process and taking into consideration its observations and findings, the committee has recommended that Parliament approves the nomination of Mr. Kanja for appointment as the Inspector General of the National Police. That is the Sergeant at Arms. That is an indication that the quorum has been achieved. You've seen also the...
We may start. First order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Deputy Majority Whip. I think I'm seeing the first paper is the Deputy Majority Whip.
Yeah, but now she's not
Proceed.
here. I could do this.
Or is it Majority Leader? Okay,
Thank you.
It says whip on my order paper. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, September 18th, 2024, morning sitting. 1, Annual National Government Budget Implementation Report for the financial year 2023-2024 from the Office of the Controller of Budget. 2, Annual County Government Budget Implementation Review Report for the financial year 2023-2024 from the Office of the Controller of Budget. 3, Annual Report of the Capital Markets Authority for the financial year 2022-2023 from the Capital Markets Authority. 4, Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2023 and certificates therein in respect of. Honorable Speaker, these are very interesting papers. A, NAC Kenya. B, National Agenda Party of Kenya. C, Justice and Freedom Party. D, United Progressive Alliance. E, United Democratic Party. F, Green Thinking Action Party. Kenya Union Party. H, Grand Dream Development Party. I, Chama cha Kazi. J, Kenya African Democratic Union, Asili, Kadu Asili. K, Mabadiliko Party of Kenya. L, National Reconstruction Alliance. M, Safina Party. N, United Party of Independent Alliance, UPIA. People's Trust Party. P, Wiper Democratic Party. Q, Democratic Party of Kenya. R, Ubuntu People's Forum Party. S, Tujibebe wa Kenya Party. T, Amani National Congress. U, Kenya African National Union. V, Chama cha Uzalendo. The gravity of this matter and how it goes, apart from us requesting for a statement, I would personally would like to request you, Honorable Speaker, to request the Minister for Interior to come to this House and explain where this elected leader is, instead of waiting for a statement for a member. I think that will give it the weight that it deserves. It also pains me. I've never met this guy. I do not know him. But he's a leader in this country. And he needs to be treated at that level. And therefore, because if we do not take this seriously, it will happen to one of us here in this House. And if an elected leader from whatever constituency or ward he is coming from, this government must take it very, very seriously. And how serious we need to look is to invite the Cabinet Secretary for Interior to come to this House under the prevailing standing order to come and give us the full report about this MCA. I submit, Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader, I think you very well know that the Cabinet Secretary can only appear before the House pursuant to a question placed before the Speaker, upon which the Speaker will now then summon the Cabinet Secretary to appear before the House on the specified days as per the standing orders. So I think to ask that the Speaker summons them now, just from your submission on the floor of the House, is misleading the public. But I think, Honorable Kainan, you also have the option to put in a question for the Minister to come and answer it here on the floor of the House. But as it stands now, what you have put before the House is that Honorable Tongoyo, Chairperson for Administration and Internal Security, can ensure that the question goes immediately to the Cabinet Secretary. So I think we can proceed to the next question.
Commitment from the chair. You have talked about Tuesday. I totally disagree. Tuesday is very far. We want the chairman to bring a statement this afternoon, and you are capable. We need to empathize, Madam Speaker. An elected leader is missing. It's not a laughing matter. You can bring an answer, and I am persuaded by the statement by the Deputy Majority Leader. We will do that. But as we do that, My friend Gabriel Tokoyo, the chairman, Administration Internal Security, can you bring a statement? You can gather, because it's an emergency. You can bring a statement this afternoon.
Okay, Honorable Tongoyo.
Honorable Speaker, as much as I actually appreciate and I'm equally concerned by the disappearance of our colleague, but I want also to be considerate, and of course, with all practicability, maybe this afternoon may not be practical. Maybe in the bare minimum, let me bring the statement tomorrow in the afternoon, kindly.
Points that the Honorable Yusuf Hussein is being held by something. I hope nobody is tampering with the ICC system here. Madam Speaker, all evidence points that Honorable Yusuf is being held by our security agencies. Can you assure this House that we will find Honorable Yusuf alive as you bring that statement?
Honorable Kainan, you have made your point, but let's not go further than begin to make statements that we cannot substantiate at the moment. I think we already have assurance from the Chairperson, Administration and Internal Security. Let us move to the next question. What's your point of order, Honorable Otiende?
Madam Speaker, I do appreciate the issue raised by Honorable Kainan and the commitment to respond by the chair of the committee. But, Madam Speaker, I want to crave your indulgence and beg that you direct the chair to be broader than that specific instance. As we speak, it is sad that an elected leader is missing. But, Madam Speaker, it's in the public domain that there are about 6 other Kenyans who are also missing, in respect of whom there's been a court order for production and even a summoning of the acting IG, and the IG has not appeared in court and their whereabouts is still unknown. As we are worrying about the one leader, elected leader who's missing, let it not look like we only rise to action when an elected leader is missing. Let it be clear that no Kenyan should go missing, so that the statement in response should cover not just that one missing elected leader, but the others who have been missing for the last 4 weeks. I crave your indulgence, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Tongoyo stands advised, yes? Honorable Osoro.
Honorable Speaker, in line with what the Honorable Kainan has actually brought before this House, about 4 weeks ago, my own driver had a very chilling experience with his firstborn daughter. The firstborn daughter got lost and never to be traced for the past 4 weeks. Was picked by some people in some street in Kisii town, and today, even as we speak, we really can't tell where the young girl is at 19. You know, the number plates that were picked by the eyewitnesses are not at the offices of the NTSA offices. So really, this is a serious thing that DCI should learn to invest in such things. Exactly, because the budget that gives the national security, Honorable Speaker, is too much. These things shouldn't be happening. And that is why I really believe what Honorable Kainan is saying, that the DCI should actually explain to us why it takes so long with the modern technology that we have and the investments that world over people are doing to trace a person. If it happens on an elected leader, a person who's actually been elected, then what to
Get the answers for the specific request, but the CS can be summoned to explain the broader issues. Thank you. Next statement by the Honorable Member for Igembe Central, Honorable Daniel Carrido. Okay, it seems like he's not present. Let's move to the next question by the Honorable Member for Kinango, Honorable Gonzi Rai.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the Provincial Standing Order 44 into brackets 2 into bracket C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure regarding the deterioration of the Marere Bridge in Kwale County. Honorable Speaker, The Marere Bridge serves as the sole transportation link between Mombasa town and Kinango sub-county, facilitating the movement of essential goods and services. However, over the years, the bridge has experienced significant deterioration due to recurrent flooding, and inadequate maintenance. The condition of the bridge poses significant risk to public safety and impairs the economic activities in the region. Farmers face challenges in transporting their produce to markets, while emergency services are forced to use longer and less efficient routes. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure on the following. 1, the current status of the Marere Bridge, which is a critical infrastructure for residents in Kinango sub-county. 2, the specific measures being put in place by the government to reconstruct the Marere Bridge, including detailed timeline completion and the immediate intervention being taken by the Ministry of Roads and Transport in ensuring public safety and further ensure maintenance of the bridge upon its reconstruction. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chairperson for the Committee on Transport and Infrastructure. You're representing him?
Yes,
okay,
I'm a member of the committee, and on behalf of the chair, Madam Speaker, we ask for 2 weeks to be able to get the response from the ministry and transmit to the member.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm now told that the Honorable Member for Igembe Central is back. Honorable Daniel Carrido, kindly make your statement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Request for statement regarding compensation claims for destruction of crops caused by the wildlife. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44/2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Department Committee on Tourism and Wildlife regarding compensation for destruction of crops in Igembe Central constituency caused by wildlife. We have had cases whereby the wildlife, the elephants have destroyed the crops and even killed people. Honorable Speaker, Mr. Jeremiah Gitonga Loroti of identification number 9294-171 owns a farm plot number 4044A, Congo, situated in Baibado sublocation in Igembe Central constituency. In 2022, Mr. Jeremiah had planted crops, including green grams in the farm, measuring approximately 60 acres. Suddenly, elephants trespassed his property, damaging crops worth an estimated amount of 5,292,000. The damage was reported to the police under OMB number 0210-02-2022. Honorable Speaker, it's unfortunate that Mr. Jeremiah Loroti has since been following with the relevant agencies seeking compensation on the damage caused. The inordinate delay in remittance of the compensation has caused anguish and financial distress to the victim. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Department Committee on Tourism and Wildlife on the following. Detailed status of remittance of the compensation to Mr. Jeremiah Gitonga Loroti. Provide a status report on actions being taken to remedy the situation and measures being taken to prevent trespass of wildlife animals to private property. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next, let's have the responses from questions that had been asked previous. Oh, yes. Chairperson, Tourism and Wildlife. Any member of that committee? So I think we'll leave that to Leader of Majority. Yeah, Deputy Leader of Majority, you'll ensure that the Tourism and Wildlife Chairperson is able to give a specific time to the member. Thank you. Right, let us move to the answers from the previous questions. Chairperson, Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. You are supposed to answer to the question by the member for Lurambi, Honorable Titus Kamala. Honorable Mutunga, are you ready?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I stand to respond to the statement requested by Elsie Mohanda, the member for, and Honourable Titus Kamala, MP. Honourable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, 2C, the Honourable Elsie Mohanda, MP, and Honourable Titus Kamala, MP, requested for statements on 14th of August 2024 on the interim cane price for the month of August set by the Agriculture and Food Authority on the reduction of sugarcane prices by the Agriculture and Food Authority, respectively. Honourable Speaker, the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development responded as follows on the issues raised in the statement. The statement by Honourable Elsie Mohanda, MP, regarding the interim cane price for the month of August 2024 set by the Agriculture and Food Authority. The honourable member wanted a comprehensive report on the rationale used by the Agriculture and Food Authority to set the interim cane price for August 2024 at 4,950 shillings per ton, including the criteria used to determine this price. Honourable Speaker, there is a cane price setting committee within the Agriculture and Food Authority, and the cane pricing committee does use this formula to set the prices. Sugarcane prices are determined by the formula whereby the price of the cane per ton is normally equal to the net sugar price per ton multiplied by the farmer's sharing ratio over the ratio of the total, the tons of cane used to produce 1 ton of sugar. Honourable Speaker, the farmer sharing ratio is adopted at 50%, and the ratio of the tons of cane used to produce a ton of sugar is adopted at 10. So the 10 tons of cane produces one ton of sugar. So the net price is therefore equal to the average ex-factory price of sugar in the spreading month, in the preceding months, excluding VAT. So the interim cane price for August 2024 was set using that particular formula at 4,950 shillings per ton, and was set by the AFA using the pricing formula, which gives the minimum recommended cane price to be paid to the farmers based on the preceding 3 months average of ex-factory price. This is the one that factories use to bring in competition between to attract the cane suppliers. The second issue that the honourable member asked was to get the effective date of the interim cane price and the reasons why the circular issued by AFA on 7th of August 2024 did not specify clearly the start date, leading to confusion and retroactive adjustment by the millers. Honourable Speaker, the response goes as follows. Sugarcane prices are reviewed and the new prices determined on a monthly basis. Millers and farmers are notified within the first week of every month, and the prices are effective from the date of the letter to which the millers notifying them, of the new prices of the cane. The third issue that the honourable member needed clarification on was on an update of the measures being taken by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development to control the influx of cheap sugar into the country, which has contributed to price fluctuations, thereby undermining the development of the sugarcane farming in Kenya. The response goes as follows. Over the first 3 years, domestic consumption of sugar has outpaced the production, hence the need for importation to cover the deficit. The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development is doing the following to achieve self-sufficiency.
Chairperson, just give me a minute to recognize some schools before they leave, then you'll continue.
What?
I said give me a minute to recognize some schools present so that I recognize them when they are still here before they leave.
Okay, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence of Royal Brain School from Kiambaa constituency, Kiambu County, seated at the public gallery. Also seated at the public gallery is Academy of Maisha Mazuri School from Matungulu constituency, Machakos County. Also seated at the public gallery is Mutomo Girls Secondary School from Kitui South constituency, Kitui County. And lastly, I wish to recognize the presence of Bonaza School, Embu, from Manyata constituency, Embu County. We welcome them to Parliament. Thank you. You may proceed, Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the third issue that the Honorable Member sought clarification on was basically on the influx of cheap sugar, which is affecting the pricing of the commodity at the national level, and what the ministry is doing to have sustainable production of cane. Over the years, domestic consumption of sugar has outpaced the production, hence the need for importation to cover up the deficit. The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development is doing the following to achieve self-sufficiency in sugar. Number one, improving sugarcane production. For the first time in years, the average monthly sugar production has hit 84,000 metric tons, against a demand of 80,000 metric tons, which is attributed to improved yields as a result of provision of subsidized fertilizer to the farmers. The second issue is that concerning improving the operational efficiency of factories, the government has put in place measures to inject private capital and operational expertise in government-owned factories through proposed leasing of the 5 factories to the private sector investors. And that issue, concerning introduction of excise duty on imported sugar, all imported brown table sugar is charged excise duty at the rate of 5 shillings per kilogram to cushion local sugar production from the exploitative cheap or cost of imported sugars. The fourth issue that the Honourable Member needed clarification on is the details on the consultations, if any, that were undertaken with sugarcane farmers and other stakeholders before the interim cane price was set, and whether the concerns of farmers regarding production costs were considered. And the response goes as follows, Honourable Speaker. The Sugar Pricing Committee meetings are usually held on a quarterly basis, and the farmers are often represented in these meetings. The second interim Sugar Pricing Committee was appointed in November 2023 for a period of 6 months. The committee held its last meeting in May 2024. Since the Sugar Pricing Committee was not in place, AFA Sugar Directorate issued the advisory setting the price per ton of sugar at 4,950 shillings in August. So the simplified cane pricing formula placed the theoretical price of sugar at 4,828 per ton, but this was adjusted to 4,950 per ton after consultations with the stakeholders. The fifth issue by the Honourable Member, Moanda, was she needed a detailed information on the composition and status of the constitution of the Cane Price Pricing Committee, including whether there is representation from sugarcane farmers in the current structure. And the response from AFA is that AFA requests the nomination of members representative from the umbrella outgrower institutions, miller associations, and council of governors. The current members were nominated by the respective organizations, and the current membership of the committee is drawn from the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, the Agriculture and Food Authority, the Kenya National Federation of Sugarcane Farmers, the Kenya Sugarcane Miller Association, and the Council of Governors. 5 members. The statement sought by Honorable Titus Kamala needed the ministry presents a report on the factors and indicators that the Agriculture and Food Authority used to determine the new sugarcane prices. And the response on our speaker is exactly the same as the response given to Honorable Muhanda, which is the price the formula that is used in pricing the cane. And the other issue that Honorable Kamala needed clarification on is the mechanisms in place to ensure the price regulations are made with adequate input from relevant stakeholders, particularly farmers and millers. And the response is that sugar prices are reviewed and determined by the Sugarcane Pricing Committee, and the Sugarcane Pricing Committee comprises of members from the different institutions, and these institutions are as follows. The chairperson is appointed by the Cabinet Secretary from amongst the members of the Sugarcane Pricing Committee, and one person is nominated by the ministry responsible for matters relating to the agriculture and appointed by the CS. 2 persons are nominated by AFA and appointed by the CS. 2 persons are nominated by the registered umbrella outgrower institutions and appointed by the CS. And 2 persons are also nominated by registered umbrella miller associations and appointed by the CS. And finally, 3 persons are nominated by the Council of Governors from the county governments from the sugarcane growing areas and appointed by the CS. Meetings of the Pricing Committee are held quarterly, during which millers and farmers make submissions touching on different production, touching on cane production and the sugarcane processing costs. The submissions are taken into account while determining the price of sugarcane. Now, the price of, the sugarcane. So the other issue that the honorable member needed clarification on was plans to review the potentially reverse this price reduction in light of its negative impact on the livelihoods of the farmers. And the response is that the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development appointed the 3rd Interim Pricing Committee on 16th of August 2024, and the committee held its first meeting on 21st of August 2024, where the sugarcane prices were reviewed and to Kenya shillings 5,000 per ton. The final request from the member was what the long-term strategies to stabilize sugarcane prices and ensure fair compensation to farmers are. And these are the responses in terms of the strategies. Number 1, to conclude the review and assessment of the crop or sugarcane general regulations 2020 to provide the Sugarcane Pricing Committee. To provide 4, setting up the Sugarcane Pricing Committee. The regulations were rejected by Parliament for inadequate public participation. The review process of the regulations is ongoing and it will be gazetted once public participation is completed. The second response is in view of the operationalization of the cane testing units, which make it possible for payment to farmers of cane to be made based on the sucrose content. AFA is undertaking public participation on quality-based cane payment system, which is QB-CPS, Regulation 2020. Once the regulations are gazetted, Honourable Speaker, the Sugar Directorate, in collaboration with the cane testing services, will work to ensure reliability and consistency of sucrose content measurement, thereby contributing to transparent and cane pricing mechanism. The third response is development of a mechanism for sharing proceeds. The Sugar Pricing Committee is supposed to work on a mechanism of equitable share of proceeds from disposable sugar and byproducts between millers and growers. This will create a collaborative and sustainable relationship in the sugarcane industry and will be achieved through operationalization of the cane testing unit. And the final response, Honourable Speaker, is that seed cane multiplication and distribution will take place at the Sugarcane Research Institute, which has 27 new cane varieties. The government is working on a mechanism to undertake multiplication and distribution of the seed cane varieties that are early maturing, high yielding, and resistant to pests and diseases, and may I add the fact that also the high sucrose content. So provision of farm inputs like subsidized fertilizers to improve the yields and also provide more earnings to the farmers is also in the package. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Okay, so you have that response. I think the next, they don't have the, Honorable Elsie is not here. Oh, you're back. Okay. You weren't present when he started answering. That's why I was going to skip you. Okay, Honorable Elsie Muhanda, Kakamega County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance. I wish it to be on record that the response is not satisfactory. When I look at the ratio of setting the price, it has still not taken into account the price of the fertilizer, the cost of production. So going back to my people in Western, with this kind of response, this is not going to help the farmer, this is not going to help cane production, because where we are sitting, the farmers are frustrated. The farmers are putting in more than they are getting. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Mutunga.
Honourable Speaker, the report I've just read indicates clearly that after the provision of subsidized fertilizers, the farmers are producing at a much cheaper and the productivity has increased. I do not know what the honourable member really alludes to when she says that the farmers are suffering.
I think if there had been actual figures, maybe the member would have been more satisfied. But you can still raise the issue with actual figures. The question with actual figures, what you think it is, and then maybe we can get a better response. Okay, the Honourable Member for Lurambi, Honourable Khamala.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the chair and the responses that he has given. Madam Speaker, I appreciate the revision of the price per ton, which was revised by 50 shillings upward. That's just a palliatory. But I strongly believe that for us to resolve all the questions that we have around sugarcane farming and the trade at large, the sugar bill that is with us is going to provide a solution, because the problems we are having are as a result of AFA. AFA has not been generous with sugarcane farming, and I believe when the sugar bill comes and we all give it the support that we need to give it to pass it, it will bring back the Kenya Sugar Board. Kenya Sugar Board will bring back directors that are elected by farmers, and we'll have so many of these things resolved. So, Madam Speaker, also, I don't want to open it up, but the importation of sugar coming in, I pray and hope that the Minister of Trade and the Minister of Agriculture can resolve that. Other than that, I want to say thank you, Chair, for the response, and we are people of faith, so we'll look forward with hope.
Thank you. Next response from the Chairperson, Administration and Internal Security, in response to the question by the Honorable Marianne Kaitan, Member for Aldai. Member for Aldai, your answer is here.
I think there's quite a number.
Yeah, actually, the remaining 6 questions are all addressed to your committee. Which one do you want
there
to
are
start
6 of
with?
them. I can start with the Marianne question.
The one by Member for Aldai?
Yeah, just
Okay.
sure. So I don't know whether we do we have to go in a particular order or?
Yeah, let's first make sure that the members who are already here. Is the Honorable Member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Atandi here? No, so we can start with the ones where we have a member present.
Maybe this one,
The Honorable
Maclab.
Member for Embakasi West is present, so you can move to number 7. After the one by Member for Aldai, you move to the one for Member for Embakasi West.
And maybe McLeod.
And then I don't see any question. There's no question by...
Baringo. Yeah, I have got yours also. Just help me sort.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable
Tongoyo,
Speaker.
desist from consulting with the member.
Okay.
Because it is me who
Well
will give you the
advised.
permission.
Well
So I'm
advised.
just explaining to you what you should do. You can ignore Honorable Magilap.
Okay, well
Okay, so
guided.
you'll move to number 7. And because the Honorable Member for Embakasi, Mark Mwenjo, is here, and the Honorable Member for Koinoin, Honorable Brighton Yagon, is here. So just go to 3, 7, and 8 first in that order, because the...
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The member for Aldai constituency, Honorable Marian Kaitan, had requested for a statement regarding maendeleo ya wanawake election. And in specific, the Honorable member particularly sought to be informed, one, aware that the effect of the COVID-19 pandemics are now under control, what plan does the maendeleo ya wanawake have to call for election at the earliest visible date? And the mechanism in place to ensure that NGO adheres to the existing act. Honorable Speaker, maendeleo ya wanawake organization, famously known as MYWO, was registered in 2004 as an NGO and now transited as a public benefit organization under the new act in the mandate to ensure and empower women and families through various capacity building intervention that promote social, economic, and technological status of Kenyan women. The maendeleo ya wanawake elections are governed by Regulation 3 of MWYO regulation attached to its constitution. Of the specific interest to this matter at hand is Regulation 3I, which provide maendeleo elections shall be held after every 5 years in accordance with these rules unless advised by the AGM depending on the prevailing circumstances. In an attempt to comply with the foregoing regulation, the maendeleo ya wanawake held a National Executive Committee as evidenced by the minutes dated 26th to 27th January 2023, where elections were extensively discussed with attempts to set election date, which proved futile, with the matter referred to the organization's AGM, which was to be held in August of the same year. However, on 11th August, maendeleo ya wanawake held another NEC meeting where the opinion of all maendeleo ya wanawake leadership ranging from grassroots to the national officials was sought, and it was eventually agreed that election be held in 2026. As all members claimed that their areas were not ready to carry out elections in 2024, as had earlier on been proposed. However, on 9th of December 2023, the organization held its AGM. Within all the resolution of the various NECs were deliberated, considered, and either amended or upheld. On matters concerning election, the following unanimous resolutions were made by the delegates at the AGM. 1, election scheduled for 19th March 2024 be postponed owing to technical, administrative, or financial difficulties. The year 2024 to 2027 be used for massive and intensive recruitment drives and cleaning the membership register at various levels of the organization. C, establish a detailed calendar for the elections. And lastly, election to be held in the year 2028 after establishment of an authentic register of the members. Honorable Speaker, on the mechanism put by the NGO to ensure adherence to the existing act, the Public Benefits Organization Regulatory Authority is established under Section 34 of the Public Benefits Organization Act of 2023, and the mandate of the authority is to register and regulate NGOs, PBOs operating in Kenya, and despite operationalization of the Act, regulation to the Act are yet to be published, and thus the authority is still operating under the purview of the NGO Coordination Regulation of 1992. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the last question, requirement for the NGO to comply with the terms and conditions of the register, requirement for NGO to file annual returns and audited accounts for review at the closure of any financial year, requirement by the NGO to comply with the provision of their respective constitutions, and developing and publishment of the annual NGO sector report to advise the government on the role of NGO in national development plan and to provide information on their compliance level. And lastly, the mapping of NGO/PBOs in order to ascertain that the operations are in accordance with the Act and the regulation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, you want to move to Honorable Member for Aldai?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thanks for the response to my statement. However, the issue that was raised has not been addressed because the Act is very clear on management of these particular bodies. The excuses that they have given for non-compliance being that they are going to mobilize members. These are members of Maendeleo Wanawake who have been in existence for forever. It's not a new entity. The members exist and they've been there. And also to give excuses like things like COVID-19 and all these other pandemics, those are just excuses. It is like telling us that we cannot conduct an election because there was COVID-19. I mean, so my issue, Madam Speaker, is that the committee has still not addressed the issues that I raised, and in terms of compliance, what is required of them to comply, because as we speak right now, they have not complied, and the women who are members in my constituency and many parts of this country are crying because they need an election. The people who met were just a neck and not the members themselves to be asked. So therefore, Madam Speaker, I still feel that has not been addressed. And secondly, the issue of them complying in terms of reporting on their accounts and all other statements, again, that has not been complied. So I still stand to be guided on that statement.
Do you have any response? Yes, Honorable Member for Kisumu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Member for Kisumu West constituency. Madam Speaker, I belong to that committee, the Committee of Administration and Interior. But first and foremost, I want to speak as a woman who's also a member of Maendeleo ya Wanawake. Madam Speaker, this is the largest women grouping right from the grassroots. And Madam Speaker, it cannot be said that elections cannot be held for over 5 years, Madam Speaker, so that the women get an opportunity to put new leadership or to confirm the leadership that they have. Madam Speaker, Maendeleo deals with all aspects for women right at the grassroots. Why is it that it is always so difficult for leadership to let go through elections so that women can still affirm them or have another say as to who should lead them? Madam Speaker, if you look at it now, Maendeleo ya Wanawake is not as strong as it used to be. Because when leadership stay in power for too long, they become lethargic. They become used to what they're doing. And Madam Speaker, they deny the organization an opportunity to invigorate leadership and to allow new young leadership to take over. Yet we know that the world is changing and needs of women, like everybody else, is also changing. Madam Speaker, as much as I belong to that committee, I want to say that Maendeleo ya Wanawake needs to have an election, and reasons for them not having an election is not well explained by my chairperson in that response. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Tongoy, I hope you've taken note of that. Okay, so we can move to the next answer. Asked by the Honorable Mark Mwenche, member for Embakasi West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In response to the question that was asked by the member for Embakasi West constituency, Mark Mwenche, who had sought a statement regarding the fire incident in Nairobi County, He stated that on the 2nd August 2024, the market adjacent to Thika Road Mall was destroyed by fire. On the following day, the Toi, Umoja 2, Mathare 4A, Kayole, Kibondeni in Kangware, and Bondeni in Kibra markets were also destroyed by fire. The honorable member sought in particular a detailed report on investigation conducted by the ministry to determine the cause, the relief measures that the government is putting in place to ensure the traders who lost their livelihood are compensated. Secondly, thirdly, the long-term plan being implemented to protect market in the Nairobi region. Honorable Speaker, on the 2nd, the fire broke out in Wetamera slum, straight near Valcon House, just a few meters from the Thika Road Mall, along the Roysambu roundabout, opposite Shell petrol station. The affected area was not a market, but a structure used by traders as a store for merchandise. This hired space belonged to Waingoi, was completely destroyed in the blaze. Nairobi County fire fighters responded promptly and managed to extinguish the fire. Affected individuals are traders who lost the stock are 25, tenants affected were 10, and Mabati structure burned down were 12, permanent houses was 1, and the cause of the fire was not immediately determined. The crime scene investigators documented the scene and collected exhibits for forensic analysis. The Kenya Power and Lighting Company experts were also invited, and a comprehensive report will be issued upon completion of investigation, which is still ongoing. On the toy market, Honorable Speaker, on that, at around 5:30, a devastating fire swept through the toy market, destroying 1,253 stalls and causing extensive damage to the property of unknown value. 4 individuals were burned beyond recognition: Kevin Ocheng, who is aged 35, Janet Kweyu Ochek, to age 20, and the other victims remain unidentified. The fire was reported to Kibra Police Station, and the scene was visited by police officers and various officials. Samples and debris were sent to the government chemist for analysis, while the bodies were taken to Nairobi Funeral Home for postmortem and identification. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. On the Umoja 2 market, Honorable Speaker, the fire burned down 10 Mabati structures on 3rd August at around 5 a.m. at Umoja 2, affecting 20 people. The fire was controlled by the police officers, members of the public, and Nairobi firefighters, and the cause of the fire is currently under investigation. That is by the time of writing this report, by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, Kayole Police Division in Embakasi Sub-County. About the Mathare, the Fears Inverno burned down Baghdad village, a slum located in the Mathare 4A. That is Untali location. The fire destroyed all the 85 Mabati structures and household goods. Nairobi firefighters responded and managed to put off the fire, and the cause of the fire suspected to be an electrical fault. The crime scene investigators personnel documented the scene. The debris were collected and taken for analysis at the government chemist to confirm the cause, but the report is not yet ready. Equally, the Kenya Power and Lighting Company Limited experts were invited also to the scene. On the issue of the Kayole market next to the Naivas, there is no report on the fire incident at Kayole market. On the Kibondeni market, our investigations have established that Kibondeni market does not exist in Kawangware. Rather, there exists Kibondeni College, which is in Westland constituency, sub-county, and no fire incident has been reported at the college. On the Bondeni market in Kibra, investigations have established that Kibra constituency has no market by the name Bondeni, and no recent fire has been reported in Kibra, other than the toy market incident, which occurred on that, as earlier stated. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the issue, on the other question on the relief measures that the government is putting in place, The following relief measures were taken to support the affected families and persons. The provision of both food and non-food items, which were distributed on the 5th August. And these items include food, non-food supplies, were distributed by the national government, the county government, and the well-wishers to the toy market traders, and a total of 7,200 iron sheets and nail and poles were given to the victims. The continuous barrasses and the public engagement to educate traders on the fire provision and control measures. And of course, this included educating the public on the safe electrical connection, emphasizing on the danger of illegal connectivity. However, Honorable Speaker, the ministry has no vote ahead to compensate the traders. On the issue of long-term, plans are underway to build modern market with fire hydrants, extinguishers, modern stores, lighting systems, accessible roads, ample space, and security communication network across the country to ensure the fire departments are well equipped and staffed for prompt response. And of course, upgrading existing market, including proper planning for accessibility of the fire engines. And ensure that traders conduct regular elections to resolve leadership issues. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, the recent fire incident in Nairobi have highlighted the urgent need for improved fire safety measures and infrastructure. Future strategies will focus on modernizing market infrastructure, improving emergency response capabilities, and ongoing public education to mitigate the risk of fire in incidences. And of course, this is to mention even close working and partnership between both the national government and the county government of Nairobi. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, Honorable Mwenje. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the chair of the committee for his response. Honorable Chair, I want to confirm some of the details that he has put, that since I raised the question, there's been some relief to those members, more specifically to Moja 2, who are compensated both financially by the county and also non-food items so that they can be able to rebuild their businesses and get back on their feet. Honorable Speaker, the only issue I just want to add to some of the issues that he has mentioned. The issue of the modern markets as he has proposed, I would hope the chair of the committee would engage the Department of Planning, that when we do these modern markets, because some of these places where there are these modern markets, you don't have accessibility to them. And some of the modern markets, we can do them with containers or materials such as metal and mabatis. It needs to be done in a constructive manner that will allow for access. So if they consult together and give them guidelines, that would really help us. I'd also want to bring to the attention of the chair of the committee is that we also even had another fire just yesterday. And one of the issues that I even raised with the president the other day was in Nairobi, the constituencies are not sub-counties. So you have less DCCs. Now, the other day, on Monday, actually, the president sat down with the entire administration and agreed that every constituency should be a sub-county. If the chair of the committee can ensure that happens in Nairobi, it will ensure that you have 17 DCCs in relation to the 17 constituencies. In these areas, you can ensure there are hydrants where water can be collected, because what will happen is that you have a fire in Mukuru or Umoja 2, but the truck has to leave and go somewhere else to get water, to come back. By the time it comes back, the fire has really spread. If you have these, if we ensure what the president gave as a directive on Monday, if that is followed, then I can assure the chair that you'll be able to respond quickly to these incidences within Nairobi, and you'll be able to ensure that you can change the face of Nairobi, ensure these services reach people, these relief efforts reach the ground, and even compliance. Those areas where roads have been blocked for accessibility, for fire engines, for relief measures, if you have these DCCs resident in their various constituencies, that will be able to really assist. Otherwise, I want to thank the chair because I know the personal effort you took to make those phone calls. They reacted even before you brought your statement. They reacted and relief went to some of those areas. And I want to thank you for the good job that you've done. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Very well, Honorable Mwenje. Let's have Deputy Speaker, Honorable Boss.
Allow me to say something about these fires that have been very prevalent in our country. I think, first of all, it's not enough to constantly, once the fire has happened, to try and compensate the victims or to try and ask the government to help. I think we have a responsibility as the citizenry to ensure that wherever we are operating business, we must confirm that it is capable of being able to deal with a fire tragedy, should it happen. For example, I think, Honorable Mwenje, you should ask your traders, they should not agree to pay the county the levies and fees that they pay at the markets if there is no fire extinguisher in the premises. Because you have to be responsible. You can't say Serikali Saidia each time. You must ask yourself, in this marketplace, suppose there is a fire. Do we have extinguishers? Are the fire hydrants nearby? If not, they must say we are not paying any fees until those things are put in place. Because that is the responsibility of the citizenry. We cannot be people who complain. Similarly with the schools, I've been telling parents, you as parents, when you drop your child to a certain school, it is your responsibility to ask, when the children are sleeping in the dormitory, is there a matron inside the dormitory? Is the door locked from outside? Is there escape routes for the children should there be a fire tragedy? Because yes, the government has said all dormitories should not have grills, and that they should be capable of having an adult child getting out of the window if necessary. But that is not being implemented. But we cannot expect the government to police every place. Each parent must have that responsibility to ensure that my child is in a safe space. I've encouraged parents to form small associations. You can make a group of 10 parents to be the ones who goes to inspect the schools, and even make impromptu stops at night to see where these children are being put. So it's very important that we begin to talk to the wananchi, to ask them, like, let us become our own police officers. Because ultimately, it is us who suffer. And at the end of the day, the government cannot compensate lives. It can only compensate property. When it is a market, it's easy. But what about when it was children, like the recent tragedy that we had at the school? So we must begin to change the conversation around this. Even here as members of parliament, we should be asking ourselves, how many fire extinguishers do we have at various points? How many times have we in this parliament had a fire drill? Not the time I've been in parliament. Nobody has prepared us for any fire drills. Should we escape? The other day when we had the breach of parliament and people came in, even getting out, nobody had trained us where exactly to go, where are the exit points, where are the places to take cover, and so on. So we must become the owners of our own security. Thank you, and I hope that the chairperson for Internal Security and Administration will summon the various institutions to ensure that this is done. It is not enough for a county to have a fire brigade truck sitting at a certain place. It's better to have more fire extinguishers than a truck in any specific place. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Very well. Or maybe this should be the last interest. Yes, Honorable Member. Rosa Buyu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't pretend to speak for government, but I'm speaking as a member of ODM who sits in the Committee of Administration. Mr. Speaker, I've just listened to the solution that the Honorable members put through. And one of those solutions is that we make each constituency a sub-county. I know that in the committee, we've actually been talking and seeking authority so that we can have each constituency as a sub-county. But you know that once that is done, it has a lot of implications on budgets. We know where we are coming from, and the Gen Zs just confirmed it to us that we are not in a good place to be spend. We don't have money to extra money to spend, and we must be vigilant on how we spend the little that we have. The truth of the matter is that it's not possible to have every constituency be a sub-county. So in whatever solutions that we are seeking, there must be solutions that are workable within the budget that we have currently. So as much as it might look glossy and as much as it might be what we are looking for and what we want, we know that we are facing real budget constraints, and it would not be possible to make every constituency a sub-county. Thank you, Chair.
What's your point of order, Honorable?
Raise under standing order number 1 and ask you, Mr. Speaker, that the last 3 weeks before we went to recess, I had a statement. And yesterday, I was called by the clerks to say my statement will be read this morning session, and the chair for security has the answer. The only problem is that the order paper does not contain that. So, Speaker, I'm asking you to implore use article standing order number 1 and ask the chairman to give me the answer because he's here. So, Speaker.
Very well, I've heard you, but I would advise and I will actually rule and indicate that talk to the table. We shall allocate your statement possibly just this afternoon or as soon as it's possible. Otherwise, I think let's have the last person speaking on this and the very last, Honorable Wanyonyi, and then we move to the next order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the chance to talk about this problem of fire in this country. It's not only in Nairobi, but it's all over. We are losing innocent lives because of not being prepared or not even thinking of tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I think we should, as a House, be able to pass a resolution as to what we should do to at least to assist those innocent souls of this country that have actually gone missing. And you know the case of Nyeri, the Speaker, and you know I also had a problem in my constituency where we lost almost 4 innocent students because of the fire. And on going to inspect the building, the dormitory in which the children were, we found that actually it was carelessness of the school management. And therefore, I think, first and foremost, Mr. Speaker, we should actually look at it and see what we should do. And somebody was saying, you can imagine fire is in the house and the door actually are closed inward other than outward. Secondly, no fire extinguisher in the schools. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, there was nobody in that home. So I want to take this opportunity to ask this House that I think you should have the resolutions to be able to at least do something about fire problems in all the places, including the schools, particularly innocent souls in schools. And therefore, I want to support that statement made, and I've made my point. And I think, Mr. Speaker, before you cut me short, I also want to ask the CDF officers in our respective constituencies to be able to go around the constituency and check on schools, particularly the dormitories where our innocent children go to, that actually some of these problems are actually observed and make correction accordingly to avoid further calamities in our schools. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I'm not sure that that question was dealing with schools or dealing with toy markets. But I think there's a lot of juiciness on the matter affecting schools, and one of the honorable members could bring a substantive motion or petition on the issue of schools. Next order. Very well. There's one more
I
statement.
still had one statement, but Honorable Speaker, if you just want to allow me, I don't want to really go back to what members have said, but I want also to say that the issue of fire and all this is not just the mandate of national government. It is a cross-cutting. It needs a collaboration between all the players, all the sectors, to include the county governments that, of course, who are supposed, of course, to have the fire engines to help to put off whenever such an incident has happened. And it's very unfortunate, even in my own county, for the last 1 month or 1 week, we've been having a lot of cases of fire outbreaks. And it's very unfortunate that even county like Narok, with a lot of money, does not have even the simplest equipment like the fire engines. So I support the sentiment of members. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the question being sought by the MP for Konoin constituency, my friend Brito Diogon, he had sought a statement regarding the disappearance of the one friend Chepngeno, a student of the Catholic University of East Africa. The honorable member particularly sought the following: the status of the investigation into the mysterious disappearance of the said person, which was reported at Ongatarongai police station on OB 7228, November 2023, and whether the family has been informed of the circumstances surrounding a disappearance and our whereabouts. Secondly, the step that the ministry has taken to ensure the missing student is expeditiously traced, and of course the security measures that the government has taken to guarantee the safety of all students and school-going children in order to protect them from potential instances. Honorable Speaker, on 28th November, one Freda Chepngeno, a student at Catholic University of East Africa, was reported missing with the Ongatarongai police station number that I had stated. A circulation of the missing person to all police stations in Kenya was made via Ongatarongai police station signal, and the preliminary investigation revealed that on 22nd November 2023, friend Chepngeno and our friend Yvonne Wamboi went to Legend Club within Ongatarongai Township. They were in the company of their respective boyfriend, Mr. George Osawe and Edwin. They took drinks up to around 2 a.m. before Frenda with George to his residence at Liza Hills. And likewise, Yvonne accompanied Edwin to his residence. Frenda left her boyfriend's residence the following day at around 8 a.m. for an interview of Siron at Siron Hotel within Rongai. She never attended the alleged interview and has never been seen since then. An analysis of our call data and IMEI history revealed that on the 23rd November, same year at around 6 p.m., a different mobile line was activated in Frenda's handset and was deactivated on 26th at around 7 a.m. The owner of the said phone number, Paul Momanyi, was arrested at a Kware area within Ongatarongai Township and interrogation. He agreed, having used a mobile phone, make Samsung A13 on the above date. The description of the said phone fitted the one belonging to the missing Frenda. Paul Momanyi stated that the said mobile number had been brought to him on the 23rd November at around 9 a.m. by Mr. Cyrus Ongeri, who was a border rider and a friend to him as a security for a loan of 1,200. Mumanyi inserted his SIM card into the said phone and used it up to 26th when Cyrus Ongeri paid back his money. Honorable Speaker, from the above finding, Cyrus Ongeri became the person of interest in this matter. All efforts to trace him have been on course and still, by the time of writing this statement, being made to arrest him. The investigating officers, in a constant liaison with the Criminal Research and Intelligence Bureau, personnel from DCI headquarters for phone data and analysis and any technical assistance. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, the government has taken the following measures to ensure the security of all students and school-going children, the stakeholders' engagement with learning institutions on enhancing security of students, carrying out security sensitization and awareness to students in learning institutions, carrying out constant patrol to data and control criminal activities, and enhancing gathering of intelligence to enhance apprehension and prosecution of criminals, and arresting and prosecution of persons who have been established bars and illicit brew dens to close learning institution, close to learning institutions, which are hidden, which are hideout for criminal in some instances. And parents and guardians are urged to escort young learners to and from school to ensure their safety. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Member for Konoin is in the House. Proceed.
Yes, Chair, Honorable Chair. Not satisfied with the answer, Honorable Chair. Why? Because Frenda disappeared. Frenda Chepngeno disappeared last year, November. On the circumstances that the chair has put. However, there was a lot of laxity. There was a lot of lack of diligence with regards to, with DCI, with regards to follow-up and trying to follow up on Gary Silas, who is the person of interest in this matter, who even took her phone. And Chair, you cannot disappear in this country and without trace, Chair. We need DCI to move faster so that they can find Frenda Chepngeno, so that Frenda can reunite with the family. I'm not satisfied with the answer, Chair.
Chair.
Speaker, as I agree with the member, we all know the issue of investigation. At times you cannot predict the timelines. But I want to commit to the member and of course to Kenyans and to this House that the DCI department will do anything humanly possible to do justice to one Brenda and make sure that the family, the people who are responsible are prosecuted. Thank you, Speaker.
Very well. You have another statement? In fact, you
I've
have
got a
two
number,
more
but I
statements.
think the Speaker had ruled that I do for the members who are in the House, maybe the rest in the afternoon.
The Honorable Samuel Atanji is not in the House. He had sought a statement from you. The Honorable Samuel Arama is not in the House. He had also sought a statement from you. I therefore propose that you table those statements. Yeah, for record purposes, because they're not in the House. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, exemption of specified business from standing.
Speaker, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the procedural motion to exemption of specified business from Standing Order 43. Honorable Speaker, that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as Order number 11 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Honorable Speaker, as I move this motion, we have very important business, especially in Order 11. Notwithstanding that the other orders are very important, Honorable Speaker, but you see, this is a very special order and comes in a special motion. And this motion is to ensure that this country has a substantive Inspector General of the Police. And therefore, I'd like to request this House, the indulgence of members and you, the Honorable Speaker, that you allow us today, this Wednesday, 18th September, to actually debate this particular motion, which is not sponsored by the leader, majority, or minority, so that we can expedite the installation of a new Inspector General of Police in this country. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request that the Honorable Naomi Wako, the Honorable Deputy Chief Whip, who is now the acting Deputy Majority Leader, to second.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second this, and it is important that all the members, honorable members, to create time so that we can contribute to this, because it is a matter that concerns all of us, and it is a national concern. The earlier we do this, the better. So I second. Thank you.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, I propose the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 11 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by majority or minority party, or business sponsored by a committee. Do I put the question? Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, I now put the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 11 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party, or business sponsored by a committee. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as those of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, the Environmental Professionals Institute of Kenya Bill, National Assembly Bill number 36 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the Environmental Professionals Institute of Kenya, to provide for the registration, licensing, and regulation of the standards and practice of environmental professionals, and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the Birth and Deaths Registration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 37 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Birth and Deaths Registration Act and for connected purposes. Order number 11, special motion, consideration of a nominee for appointment as the Inspector General of the National Police Service.
Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to request the chairperson, the honorable chairperson of the committee, the Honorable Tongoyo, to move this and that he will appoint the person that would second him. But then I will come in and debate, Honorable Speaker, with your indulgence.
The Honorable Tongoyo, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Leader Majority. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopt the report of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security and the Senate Standing Committee, Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations on the approval hearing of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kiroche, nominee for appointment to the position of the Inspector General of the National Police Service. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision...
Order, Honorable Tongoyo. Move the motion as it is on the order paper. Please. Read it as it is on the order paper. You can pass an order paper to Honorable Tongoyo. Very well.
Number 11. Consideration. Mr. Kancha. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. That taking into consideration, I beg to move that, taking into consideration the finding of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security and the Senate Standing Committee on National Defense Foreign Relations in report on the vetting of Mr. Douglas Kancha for approval as the Inspector General of the National Police Service, laid on the table of the House on the Tuesday 17th September 2024, and pursuant to the provision of Article 247(2)(a) of the Constitution, Section 12(1) of the National Police Service Act Cap 84, and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Act Cap 7F. This House approved the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kancha Kiroche as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. Honorable Speaker, as earlier stated, pursuant to the article that I read of 247(2)(a) of the Constitution, Section 12(2) of the National Police, and the Section 5 of the Public Appointment Approval Act 7F, His Excellency the President submitted the name of Mr. Douglas Kancha Kiroche, CBS, OGW, as the nominee for appointment to the said position of Inspector General of the National Police Service. Mr. Speaker, the Speaker of National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate via communication made on the 1st August 2024 and conveyed the message from His Excellency the President nominating Mr. Kancha as the nominee for appointment to the said position of the Inspector General of National Police Service. Consequently, the Speaker of both houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, referred the matter to the National Assembly relevant committees of both Senate and National Assembly. And according to Section 6(9) of the Public Appointment, the Parliamentary Approval Act, the Clerk of the Assembly and the Clerk of the Senate invited interested members of the public to submit any representation by written statement on oath with supporting evidence on the stability of the nominee for the appointment to the position of the Inspector General. The invitation was made with advertisement that appeared in the Daily Nation, on the Standard newspaper on 3rd August. A total of 30 memoranda were received regarding stability of the said nominee. Mr. Speaker, out of the 30 memorandum, only 2 met the requirement of the law. One of the memoranda by one Mr. Eliud Karanja Matindi, who contested the nomination, was not nominated for approval of appointment, basing lack of fair competition and merit. After consideration of the memorandum, the committee observed that under the Article 245 of the Constitution, Section 12(2), the National Police Service Act, Cap 84, the Inspector General of the Police is nominated by the President with the approval of Parliament. That not submitting into competitive process. So we found that it not actually meet the threshold. On the other memorandum that we received was one by Engineer Madenge, who, of course, who contested the stability of the nominee, citing some conflict of interest and an issue they had over land. And after the committee interrogated, the nominee had responded satisfactorily to the issue raised by Engineer Madenge, to the satisfaction of the committee during the approval hearing. Mr. Speaker, this notification was followed up with a letter to the nominee inviting him to attend the approval hearing, which was done by the joint said committee. During the approval hearing, the nominee we had, of course, as a procedure, a questionnaire which was filled by the nominee. And as a requirement of Chapter 6, the committee received responses from ODPP, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the KRA, the Higher Education Loan Board, the DCI, Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, and the Credit Reference Bureau, which all of them cleared the nominee. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Article 118 of the Constitution, Section 6.3 of the Public Appointment, and Standing 45.3 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, and the Standing Order 77.2 of the Senate Standing Order, the Clerk of the National Assembly and the Senate, by way of advertisement in the print media, notify the general public of the intention of committee to attend the approval hearing. And for record, Honorable Speaker, we had actually a handful number of Kenyans who were in the vetting in the room during the process. The committee on 13th August 2024 undertook the approval hearing. That was on a Thursday. A pre-hearing. And on 15th August 2024, the joint committee of both houses conducted the approval hearing. And they were guided by the provision of the Constitution and the Public Appointment Act of the National Police Service. During the approval hearing, Mr. Speaker, the committee considered nominees' duly filled questionnaire, the curriculum vitae, the candidate academic credentials, provisional training and experience, and the personal integrity and the background to assess the stability of the candidate for the said position. The committee made several observations, Mr. Speaker. The nominee, until his nomination to the said position, was acting Inspector General of Police. He had served this republic in the service for 39 years, the record 39 years. And he started working as a constable since 1985 and rose through the ranks to the position of DIG before he was actually made the acting IG. From the police constable, the nominee had actually worked almost in every part of this country, to include the remotest part, and more importantly, the North Rift, and even the Northeastern, which are areas that are considered to be most insecure in this country. The nominee, Mr. Speaker, had on the issue of course, academic qualification, which is a requirement of law, the nominee holds a bachelor's degree in commerce, the finance option, from Nairobi University, awarded in 2014, and this diploma in business management, acquired in 2009. Mr. Speaker, it's important to note that the issue of the degree, because it was an issue that actually some members brought about, the nominee's degree from University was validated and authenticated by the Commission for University Education, following a request by the nominee to the Commission. And the same letter from the Commission for University Education is actually in the report and signed by one Gilbert Opanga. Mr. Speaker, during his tenure in the police service, the nominee led critical security operation, notably the coordination, shift coordination, and response during the Dusit terrorist attack in 2009. We all remember that sad day. The nominee was actually the person coordinating the operation, which was very successful. Besides, the nominee led several operations to include Operation Fagia Msitu in Boni Forest in Lamu County, which had actually tremendously reduced the terrorist activities in the region. The kind of the tranquility and the peace we have in that region, to a big extent, is attributed to the effort of the nominee before this House today. The nominee, Honorable Speaker, holds several awards in recognition of his outstanding and distinguished service to this nation in various capacities and responsibilities. And I think I'd earlier included a mention that he has actually worked virtually in every corner of this country. So he's a man that he knows every corner of this country like the palm of his hand. While serving as the acting inspector general, the nominee demonstrated strong leadership abilities and managerial skills. And actually, when we were doing the supplementary, because he was acting then, we actually saw a man who is a team player, which is a critical leadership skill for a person of that position, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during the approval hearing, the nominee was able, to the satisfaction of the committee, to exhibit knowledge in matters relating to the security, to law, management, leadership, and quality necessary to administer and manage command of the National Police Service as a disciplined service prescribed under Section 11 of the National Police Service. Mr. Speaker, I think I mentioned that we really canvassed and looked critically into the background and the record of the officer, and it was very impressive to note that for having 39 years, this is an officer that has never been implicated in any issues of corruption, in any issue of indiscipline, or any wrongdoing. Is an officer who his level of discipline is par excellent, and a very patriotic officer who is patriotic to this nation. Mr. Speaker, the nominee, as necessary from the interrogation and for experience spanning the almost 40 years, we were convinced that the nominee had the requisite experience and qualification to hold the office of Inspector General of National Police Service. Mr. Speaker, among the very critical issues that I want to really discuss, we all know the current issues that are going in this country and the very needed reform in the police service, which are actually well enumerated in the Maraga Task Force report. And I want also to mention that even as we speak, this morning, His Excellency the President had launched the strategic plan to see the implementation of the police reform that were actually as stipulated in the Maraga report. And the committee was able to interrogate the nominee to see the stability for the said position. And we were convinced, Honorable Speaker, that this man is the best fitted man to implement and oversee the police reform. Mr. Speaker, we took the nominee through several very critical issues affecting this country, to include the issue of insecurity in the North Rift and the eastern part of the country. And he was able really to convince the committee that the man is best fitted for the job. Having already been actually the commandant of JSU, he has been actually trained in several training during his service, in this, his years in the service, and has been actually even in the training colleges. And more critically, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, we all know that one of the critical issue in the police service is the issue of the public trust and the corruption. The committee was convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that one Mr. Douglas Kancha will able to handle the issue of corruption in the police service. We were so much impressed, and actually to the disbelief of many, that the worth of Mr. Kancha was 46 million, which was actually, it was hard for members to believe, knowing that how the corruption is rampant in our police service, and he has been serving in high ranks. That demonstrates the ability that this nominee will be able to handle the ghost of corruption in the police service and bring dignity to our service. Mr. Speaker, without taking much time, I want really to convince this House, or I want to prove to this House, that the man before you today is the man that Kenyans need, is the man that the Kenyan service need to bring about the change that we have been looking for too long, for many years, especially in the reform in the police service, to stamp out corruption, and of course, to take this country forward in matters security. Mr. Speaker, based on the observation made, I want to recommend that this House approve the nomination of Mr. Douglas Kiroche, CBC, OGNW, for appointment as Inspector General of the Police Service. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move, and I now request my very able Vice Chair, Honorable Retired Colonel Dido Raso, to second this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Raso, but order for record purposes, you did pronounce yourself on Article 247. It is Article 245, 2A of the Constitution. Proceed, Honorable Raso.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second, and I want to say from the onset that I associate myself fully with the statement that has been made by my chairman, that Mr. Kanja has been found suitable by the Joint Committee of the Senate and that of the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, Mr. Kanja started as a police constable and rose through the ranks. He actually went through 13 stages to be the nominee and contestant for the position of the IG. He waited for his time. He waited on the line. For that reason, I think these are the sort of people who, when they appear before Parliament or anybody, bodies that are going to determine whether individuals are suitable, it indicates that they have qualified to be where they are, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of the regions they come from. They are on a professional line that we can all say that, yes, he waited for his time and he has done due diligence for the work that he has been given. Honorable Speaker, Mr. Kanja is not new to this House. He is the immediate former Deputy Inspector General of the National Police Service, where he was at vigilance. And he has been able to communicate, to talk to members of Parliament, who, when you have issues concerning your constituents, he has been very diligent to attend to those without discrimination or without feigning that members of Parliament are actually disturbing him. So among these many things, are the reasons why we as a committee, we have said Mr. Kanja is suitable, and we ask the House to join us in approving his nomination. Honorable Speaker, there were memorandums which were presented about this particular nominee. And of those 23, it is actually mind-boggling to find for the first time a policeman at that level. Majority of the memorandum were positive. They were in his favor. And of note was, I think, a memorandum that talked about his action during the Dusit attack, that infamous terrorist attack that took so many lives, and his heroic actions, and that of the other policemen who were with him. It is what saved so many lives on that fateful day. Honorable Speaker, as the chairman has already said, many questions were raised with this particular nominee, particularly on the issues of corruption in the police force, which is a teething thing. And many of us sitting in this house will actually turn around and say the police is the most corrupt institutions. But one of the questions that this particular nominee was able to explain in very fine detail is that the issue of corruption is not just akin to the police force, but it is a societal problem that we must begin to tie it down from the early age, in primary school, in secondary school, so that the society is fully aware about the bane of corruption in our society. Honorable Speaker, on the invasion of Parliament, this particular nominee was able to say with frankness that indeed that was a breach and there was omission or commission on the part of the police service, and they should have done better on that particular instance. Honorable Speaker, this particular nominee, I think we, as a committee, we have confidence that he will be able to bring the National Police Service, IPOA, the oversight body of the National Police Service, and also the National Police Service Commission. Over the years, these three institutions that look at policy, oversight, and the functioning of the police have not been working together. It has been a concern to the committee, and we have asked him, in case the House approves his nomination, he must be prepared to walk the talk to make sure that those three bodies work hand in glove. Finally, Honorable Speaker, it is the issue of the police. In the recent months, the police has been at the center of debate, both in the national media, among us as politicians and leaders. We must ask ourselves, does Kenya need a police force? What type of a police force do we need? Because the police will generally reflect the character of the nation. We cannot say we have good people and we have a bad police force. It doesn't really add up. The police is a constitutional body. They must act within the Constitution. But equally, the Kenyan citizenry must also begin to identify with the police that we citizens must act within the law. The police are there under the Constitution to safeguard lives and properties. Those are my property and your property. The life of all of us as we sleep in our homes. There are policemen who are on the beat in the night to make this country secure. And for that reason, we must look beyond small or petty issues that the police are this, the police are that. It is important to actually identify that today our police are doing a very good job in the Caribbean to restore normalcy to a country that had just gone to the dogs. And that is how professional this police force is. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I want to join my chairman to request the House to approve this nominee. Thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Order, honorable members. Let me first, before I propose the question, acknowledge the presence of Ndundune Second School in the public gallery this morning. Ndundune Second School is from Kibwezi constituency, Makueni County. Honorable members, I now propose the question. Order, honorable members. I now propose the question that, taking into account the consideration of the finding of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations, in its report on the vetting of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho for approval as the Inspector General of the National Police Service, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 17 September 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 245(2)(a) of the Constitution, Section 12(1) of the National Police Service Act, Cap. 84, and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap. 7F, this House approves the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. The interest in this is overwhelming, and therefore I'll not put the question. The Honorable Tiende Amolo.
Could I get the mic? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the committee for the report. From the outset, I can confirm that I've read the report. I have read the recommendation for approval of the nominee, and I support that proposal. But Mr. Speaker, may I, on the outset, point out two things. One, contrary to what the chairman has said, that in their opinion, it is not open to subject such matters to merit and fair competition. I think that's against the Constitution. Every provision should be subjected to merit and fair competition, but that's not an indictment of the nominee. That is an issue of the nominating authority, so it cannot be held against the nominee. Secondly, the vice chair, in seconding the motion, used the word police force. We no longer have a police force. We have a police service, and that's where our problems begin. The nominee, as they are coming in, subject to this House's approval, must understand that they'll be running a police service and not a police force. Mr. Chairman, I want to support this because this nominee will be the 16th Inspector General, actually the 6th Inspector General since 2012, but if you start from 1964, they would be the 16th because there were 10 before that. Mr. Chairman, I have looked keenly at the CV
of the nominee. And this nominee is being nominated as the Inspector General at a very difficult time when the police service is under microscope. It's under microscope for various reasons. First of all, Mr. Speaker, for impunity. It is a time that the acting Inspector General is demonstrating absolute impunity against the court. It is at a time the Inspector General, the acting Inspector General, is demonstrating impunity by withdrawing bodyguards of a judge because of orders that they perceive to be adverse. That is absolute impunity. Mr. Chairman, it is also at a time when there are unexplained disappearances and abductions. Just this morning, the chairman was made to commit to make a statement tomorrow. There are so many instances of unexplained disappearances and abductions. Mr. Chairman, it is also coming at a time when there have been questions of the police handling of lawful...
Order, Otienda Molo. I'm now the speaker, not chairman. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know you are my chairman in other areas, so... But for these purposes, Mr. Speaker, it is also coming at a time when there have been questions of the police handling of lawful demonstrations and picketing in terms of use of excessive force. But Mr. Speaker, I have examined the report of the committee and looked at the CV of the nominee, and I would say I'm impressed. I'm impressed first, Mr. Speaker, because from all the reports, this nominee is without blemish in his 39 years of service. That is not easy for a policeman. That is not easy for a person who has even been a deputy inspector general and a commandant of the GSU. That is rare. Mr. Speaker, I'm also impressed because this is a person who you'd say has risen from humble beginnings in the service, from the lowest possible level as a constable to come up to this high level. It is not easy. We are used to getting CVs of people who have come at a very high level. Mr. Speaker, I am also impressed because this nominee has shown resilience. If you look at the CV, this nominee is not a genius, but you are not required to be a genius to be the Inspector General. All you are required to do is to have a degree. This is a man who has gone through what we'd call elimu ya ngumbaru. He's a man who has educated himself from the lowest level. I see that he only got a diploma in 2009, got his degree in 2014. You know, this is a self-made man. He is resilient, and that is actually a good sign. And Mr. Speaker, I have also carefully looked at the report. There has not been any demonstration of impunity. And for me, that is critical. We need an Inspector General that understands that you must operate within the law. You know, Mr. Speaker, some things must be said. As the Inspector General of the police, you must have the humility that Nelson Mandela had when he was president. When Nelson Mandela was confronted with a court order that was adverse to government and he was urged to defy it, he said that I do not agree with the courts, but in the interest of this country, I will comply with those court orders. That is what an Inspector General must do, because as the foremost enforcer of the law, you must be seen to respect the law. If you don't, then those to whom you enforce the law will not respect the law. And I fault the acting Inspector General right now for showing impunity. When the courts require you to appear, all you need is appear. You don't need to defy and then issue a press conference explaining the functional and operational independence of the police service. There is no independence from the authority of the court. There is no independence from the authority of parliament. Your independence is within what is defined. When you are summoned by parliament, you must come. When you are summoned by the court, you must come. That kind of impunity is unacceptable. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the acting Inspector General should know that he's walking on thin ice. First of all, strictly speaking, there is no provision to appoint an acting Inspector General. And I dare the committee to consider this matter. Section 16 of the National Police Service Act allows the President to appoint an acting Inspector General in the event of temporary absence of the Inspector General, which means there must be an Inspector General who is absent. Where there is no Inspector General, you cannot act You cannot appoint someone acting. So when you have been, by the generosity of happenstance, appointed an acting inspector general, you cannot then demonstrate such absolute impunity. You should be humble, because that happenstance can be withdrawn anytime. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this appointment. I want to urge that as Mr. Kanja comes in as the IG, let him demonstrate why we changed the police from a force to a service. Let him demonstrate the ability and confidence on what President Ruto promised, that there will be no unexplained disappearances. Let us have an era where we do not have that kind of thing. Let us have an era where everybody respects the law, everybody is below the law, and everyone then is held accountable. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Leader.
Give me the mic. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this report and also to support the appointment of one Douglas Kanja Keroche as the Inspector General of the Police. Honorable Speaker, allow me to say this at the beginning. This country and the Constitution transformed the police from a force to a service. Douglas Kanja is a man who can provide service in the police force, in the police service. He's not that person that will turn it from service to force. We have a candidate, Honorable Speaker, that is a humble man, a man who respects both the mighty and the lowly. He is a man that is destined to ensure that human rights in this country are respected. I know Douglas Kanja. I worked with him when he was the county commander in Kilifi. He was the boss of the county, but he worked with even the lowest of people. And today, if Kanja steps in Kilifi, everybody respects him. Everybody says this is a man that lived his time here well. I am sure even when he takes the seat at Vigilance House, people will be happy that we have that kind of an Inspector General. He has his job cut for him. And I think he's the best Inspector General we can have at this particular time, when the people who are there at Vigilance House are trying to turn back the clock of the gains that we have had at the police in this country. Issues of human rights, respect for law are being clawed back by the people that we have right now at Vigilance House. I believe, and I very strongly do so, that one Douglas Kanja will take us to the time that Kenya should be. The president has been very clear. He doesn't want to see forced abductions. He doesn't want to see extrajudicial killings. He doesn't want to see impunity in the law. He doesn't want to see that. But you can see there are people who are letting him down. But I believe that one Douglas Kanja will stand with the principles that the president upholds and ensure that forced disappearances in this country do not recur. These things that our chairman here is every day being told to explain, where is so-and-so, where did he disappear to? We have this case of the MCA of Wajir, Mandera. This is a simple case, but you see the back and forth. We have these people who are, the current Inspector General has been asked to explain in court, but because he feels he's bigger than the law, he doesn't want to go to court. I tell him, this government does not entertain impunity, and that Masengeli man must go to court and answer to the charges that he has been put there, because that is being a servant. You cannot be above the law. And I think one Douglas Kanja will not purport at any one time to be above the law and to exercise the impunity that we are seeing. So I want to ask members here, even when Kanja served as the DIG, he listened to all of us. If you wanted something done, the only person you needed to talk to was Douglas Kanja Keroche. You give him a call whatever time, he will pick it, and he will actually act on your request. That is one Douglas Kanja. And I do not think he only did it for members of parliament. He also did it for other people who do not have rank in this country. Even the officers in the police service respect him. We need an officer who can be respected by the officers that he serves with in the police service. And one Douglas Kanja will bring honor, he will bring trust, and he will also bring respect to the police force. He also has one job that he must do. get rid of the corruption at Vigilance House and in the police force and the police service. He has that job cut for him. And I believe, very strongly so, Honorable Speaker, that Douglas Kanja will actually do the job. Probably, the police service will not be ranked anymore as the highest temple of corruption in this country, because I believe we have a man. And one last thing I want to say, I know Douglas Kanja fears God. He fears God. He's a religious man. He's a man that is schooled properly in Christianity and has been properly grounded. That I know. I have seen him practice it, and I know that we have one person that will transform the police service. I also want to say, I heard what the Honorable Senior Counsel, Lieutenant Amolo, said. I haven't heard him in this parliament say the kind of platitudes he has said about an officer. In fact, I was surprised that one Lieutenant Amolo today can actually say such things. It means we have the right man for this service. I don't think it's broad-based. It is because it has come from his heart and his experience with Douglas Kanja. And I would like to ask, I know Rosa Buyu really wants to speak on this, but I want to tell Rosa Buyu, we have a good man that we have to approve for this job. So I want to urge all members of parliament, let us come here in numbers, let's vote to vote the right man for the job, who will not perpetuate impunity, who will not do things that our Inspector General should not do. And we have one man, Douglas Kanja Karoche, for the job. I support and I request all other members to support. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Shadrach Mwiti. Yeah, he's number one on the list. Proceed.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on this noble motion whereby I support or I concur with the findings of the Joint Committee. Mr. Speaker, Douglas Kanja Karoche has proved to be a great leader. The leadership he has shown on his colleagues and also to the fellow Kenyans makes him a very good IG when approved. Mr. Speaker, the track record of Douglas Kanja is crystal clear. His leadership in the various operations that he has done or he has led proves that he is going to make an excellent IG when confirmed by my fellow honorable members. The period he has served, Mr. Speaker, almost 4 decades in the civil service or on the police service, Mr. Speaker, shows that he has the experience that given this opportunity, which I'm very sure you've given, and I'm confident that his experience is going to give his colleagues a great direction on their leadership. Mr. Speaker, when Douglas Kanja was a director in the DCI, he gave or he activated a leadership and improved on criminal identifications, and DCI, as a DCI director, he proved that he is able to give good leadership. Mr. Speaker, when Douglas Kanja was in Eastern Province, he did a great thing or gave the election on policing, and also, Mr. Speaker, the community engagements. Mr. Speaker, Douglas Kaja has shown great effort on ethical and integrity. For the 39 years Mr. Kaja has worked, he has not been implicated in any unethical activity. His integrity is very clear, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the findings of the Joint Committee is elaborate, and when Mr. Kaja is confirmed, I'm confident that the infrastructure of various police stations are going to improve. Mr. Speaker, I concur with the Joint Committee and associate myself with the report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Farah Malim.
Mr. Speaker, I also want to render my voice on this very, very important matter that's before us. Mr. Speaker, I have known Kanja for a few years. And I can tell you one thing, I am usually, ordinarily, normally, not too generous with compliments, but this is one man who has earned my respect, who has earned my respect in the criminal justice system. He is impeccable, he is very good, he's human, he's down to earth, and basically cares about this country the way a member of the security establishment in the country should be worried about our country. I come from an area that has got security issues. And one of the things that will impress you when you look at his CV, he started service in the Lokichokio area. The areas that essentially have got the same security situation as my area. And when you talk to him, it doesn't matter what time you call him, whenever there's an emergency, he is for sure going to call you back and he will attend to that problem personally himself. Every time I went to his office there and I said, these are the challenges we have there, he comes back to you when he has done a serious job. And always, invariably, every time, he has done something that was very patriotic and, in my opinion, exactly how somebody in that position should conduct himself and maintain the patriotism for this country, because there is nothing like a problem in the law and order. The moment you have a breakdown of law and order in a country, you don't have a country. You don't have a country. And I want him to continue with a very good job in this new position. He has our support. I can see the mood in the House is for him. I can attest to it. In my many years of being in politics and being a member of parliament, I have seen many, what do you call, he has no equal. Let me tell you one thing. He has absolutely no equal. So thank you very much, and I want to support the report of the Joint Committee, and I also implore on other members of parliament here in the National Assembly to support the appointment of Kanja as the new Inspector General for our country. Thank you.
The Honorable Lydia Haika.
Asante sana Spika, hata mimi kunipatia fursa hii ili niweze kuchangia katika mjadala huu ambao ni wa kumjadili huyu Inspector Jenerali wa polisi. Na kwanza nataka kuanza na kupongeza komiti ambayo imekalia ripoti hii na ikatuletea hapa. Nimeona ripoti ikiwa mzuri sana, wameweza kumchunguza vyema na wametuletea ripoti ambayo ni nzuri. Speaker, nataka kusema hivi. Huyu bwana Douglas Kanja Kirocho ni mtu ambaye ni mzoefu kwa kazi yake, na tumeona akipanda madaraka kuanzia alianza kazi hii akiwa kwa daraja ndogo, amepanda madaraka mpaka akafikia mahali amefika, na hivyo ndo tunataka kuona watu wakipanda vyeo hivyo na kuungwa mkono wakiwa wamefanya vyema. Kwa ubora wake tulimjua sana wakati alikuwa katika ile operation ya wakati kulikuwa na ile mambo ya bombing pale Dusit, na kwa kweli alifanya kazi nzuri na alifanya kazi vyema kabisa. Lingine ni kwamba hatujamsikia katika mambo ya ufisadi akitajwa, kwa sababu tumejua shirika hili la polisi limekuwa likiwa tajika sana, likitajwa na likihusishwa sana na mambo mengi ya ufisadi. Lakini miaka yote hiyo ameweza kuwa katika shirika hilo, basi hajahusishwa. Hilo pia ni jambo jema na ni jambo la kupigiwa upato, na kwa hivyo nataka kuungana na wenzangu kuunga ripoti hii mkono na kumtakia kila laheri atakapopata fursa ya kuwa Inspector General katika taifa letu la Kenya. Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipatia fursa.
The Honorable Sarah Korere.
Shukrani Mheshimiwa Spika. Naungana na wenzangu kuunga ripoti ya kamati ambayo imewakilishwa mbele zetu. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba nikiwa moja ya kamati ya usalama tuliweza kupiga darubini huyu Inspector Generali ama aliyekuwa naibu Inspector Generali, na ukweli ni kwamba Spika, umahiri na ukakamavu alionayo bwana huyu katika kutekeleza majukumu yake ni ya hali ya juu sana. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, ukitazama kwamba alianza kazi yake ama alianza wito, manake mimi naona kama kuwa askari wa polisi pia ni wito, katika umri mchanga, na ukitazama pale alipofanya kazi Kenya hii ni mahali kama vile Lokishogio, Kapedo na kwingineko. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, hamna anaelewa zaidi vizuri hali ya usalama katika kaskazini mwa nchi yetu, na pale ambapo usalama imekuwa ni kitu ambaye imetukera sana wenyeji. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, huyu bwana alipokuwa naibu Inspector Generali ilikuwa rahisi kumfikia Kanja, rahisi mno kuliko kufikia komanda wa polisi katika kaunti yako mwenyewe. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunasema bwana huyu anastahili na anaweza. Sio kwa sababu ametoka mahali fulani, sio kwa sababu ako na jina fulani, ni kwa sababu ni Mkenya, na ni Mkenya ambaye anapenda nchi yake na amehudumia nchi yake kwa ukakamavu na pia kwa unyenyekevu. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukitazama masuala ya elimu, ukitazama kozi ambayo huyu bwana amepitia, ingewekwa pamoja na kusawasanishwa na degree, anaweza kuwa pia na PhD kwa yale ambaye ameweza kusoma kama polisi. Mheshimiwa Spika, nchi hii inahitaji polisi ambaye watahudumia wananchi, kwa sababu polisi ni huduma. Na nani atalete hii huduma? Mimi naamini huyu bwana ataweza kutekeleza hayo. Lakini kando na hayo ni kwamba mara mingi tunajipata tukiwa viongozi, tukiwa wananchi, tukiwalimbikizia lawama chungu mzima polisi kwa sababu ya kutotekeleza majukumu yao. Lakini tunakosa kutazama kwamba mara nyingi hata katika bunge hii tunapofanya bajeti, ile bajeti ya polisi wanapewa ni pesa kidogo sana. Ndio maana nataka kusema kama mmoja wa kamati ya usalama kwamba hata tunapopea huyu bwana kazi, hata tunapokuwa na matarajio chungu mzima, lazima polisi wapewe yale mambo ama yale fedha yatakayowawezesha kutekeleza majukumu yao. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mara mingi mambo yakiharibika, kila mtu ana hukumu polisi. maneno ya haki za kibinadamu. Na mimi huwa nauliza tu swali moja, polisi sio binadamu. Polisi hana haki. Unatuma polisi akatekeleze wajibu, hana nguo rasmi ya kumkinga, labda kutokana na kurushiwa mawe, hana vifaa zile anahitaji za kutosha. Sasa huyo polisi unataka afanye nini? Tunaposema maneno haki za kibinadamu, lazima tuelewe kwamba polisi wana haki. Na hawa polisi si polisi tu, manake hamna factory ambayo inatengeneza polisi. Factory ni sisi tumezaa wa watoto, ni watoto wetu, ni ndugu zetu. Kwa hivyo lazima tuangalie vizuri ili nao wawe na ile motisha ya kuweza kulinda haki na usalama ya Kenya vizuri. Manake usipopatia mtu haki yake, hamna yeyote atakayepeana kile ambacho hana. Kwa hivyo ukimpa haki, atakupa haki. Ukimkataza haki yako, nawe usitarajie kupata haki. Kwa hivyo ninasema hivi, Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono hayo. Na ningetaka tu kusema kwa viongozi wa Kenya. Kenya sasa hivi tuko tuna shida mingi, na sidhani shida yetu moja ni kujua nani anatawala mlima ama nini. Na ningetaka kusema hivi, Mheshimiwa Spika, katika nchi hii, viongozi wa nchi hii lazima wawe ni viongozi wa kuunganisha Kenya. Na iwapo yale tunaona yataendelea vile tunayaona, ati kwamba kuna watu fulani wamekuwa sasa ni viongozi wa sehemu fulani, basi hatuna budi tubadilishe katiba. Kila region ile ilikuwa 8 iwe na naibu wake, ndio tupate watu watazungumza juu ya Kenya mzima, sio mtu kila siku kusimama kuanzia asubuhi mpaka jioni ni mlima. Kenya iko na mlima, Kenya iko na bonde la Ufa, Kenya iko na coast na kadhalika.
You must be relevant. Anyway, other members, the Honorable Joseph Kihangara Larry, MP Larry.
Mlima. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I happen to come from the Mlima that is being referred to. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, let me say that I'm a member of the Committee on Administration and Internal Security, and I sat through the approval hearing process, and I stand to support the committee report and also urge my colleagues, members, to approve the candidate, that is Mr. Kanja, for the position of the Inspector General. Mr. Speaker, from the hearing, you realize that Mr. Kanja was employed in his early 20s in the police force, and meaning that he has worked for over 30 years in the police force. Mr. Kanja has risen through the ranks, starting from the position of a constable all the way to acting Inspector General. And Mr. Speaker, having Mr. Kanja appointed as the Inspector General is a way that will boost the morale of the police officers. Reasons being that if he has risen through the ranks to become now the Inspector General of Police, one of the problems we have in the police force is that there are people who are employed as constables and they stay in that position for forever, probably until they retire. Mr. Kanja will be the man now to bring the change that officers, as they serve, he is going to eliminate discrimination. Because we are aware that transfers and promotion of police officers has not been on merit in most cases. It has been on who knows who. And I think Mr. Kanja, having gone through the ranks, is somebody who's going to help us in this particular matter by boosting the morale of the police officers. Mr. Kanja, from the hearing, understands the challenges that are faced by police officers. We have been talking about police reforms, and these reforms on issues of corruption, on issues of the welfare of the police officers, all this has not been achieved. But Mr. Kanja is the right person to do this because he understands, for example, the deplorable conditions that police live in. He understands the issues that I've mentioned on promotion and transfers, and also the issue of corruption that is a big problem in this country. He's one man during the hearing who told us that if appointed as Inspector General, one of the things they are going to do, and especially in the traffic department, is to ensure that police officers have body cameras so that they can be able to be traced where they are. You can also be able to see the actions they're taking on the roads. And this is one way of assuring Kenyans that with Mr. Kanja at the helm of the police service, we are going to see some very tremendous changes. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kanja also has worked in very many parts of this country, as members have mentioned. He has worked in areas where we had issues of the cattle rustling, and that means he's one person also who will be able to organize a police force so that they can be able to tackle the issues on the ground, and Kenyans will be able to live in peace. So I believe Mr. Kanja is the most suitable person to hold this particular position. Congratulate him as we move to approve the position, and also urge him and ask him that he should serve Kenyans from all corners of this country, of course, without discrimination. And he did show us during the approval, when he was acting Inspector General, that he was able to handle issues raised by members of the public. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I support, and thank you.
The Honorable Ndikiri Mugambi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to identify myself with the report of the committee and to say that this House to approve the candidature of Douglas Kanja Kilosho. Mr. Speaker, I have looked at the report and the structure or presentation of the report has captioned all the details of the Constitution by law. Mr. Speaker, I don't need to belabor so much on what really the report has brought us, because it has been very positive right from the word go. But Mr. Speaker, we must understand the structure of security in this country, because that's where the importance of the Inspector General comes in. Mr. Speaker, the end of security in this country is none other than the President of the Republic of Kenya, who owns the Security Council of this nation, and where the Inspector General and the CS sit in order to advise the President on matters of security. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore very important that we recommend and approve a person who will be able to address the issues of security at the Security Council of this nation. Mr. Speaker, we must understand as a House that the only organ of security that reports directly to the President is the National Intelligence Service. The other one reports directly to the Inspector General, who is in charge of operations of the security situations in the country. Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of security is only in charge of policy. But what we have witnessed in the past, Mr. Speaker, is the Cabinet Secretary is now been reduced into under the matters of operation. I think and I want to believe that the incoming of Douglas Kanja as the Inspector General, he will take up the responsibility of operations of the security organs in this country. Mr. Speaker, the Inspector General is in charge of three large departments. That is the Inspector General of Police, Deputy Inspector General of Police, and the Inspector General of Administration Police, or what they call CIPU, Critical Infrastructure Police Unit, and also now the traffic and the CID. This person in character, in experience, must be of high standard, and that's what we are seeing from the report that has been presented by the committee. I want to thank the committee for that. Mr. Speaker, the job specifications and job descriptions have been given, and I have no doubt in my mind that Douglas Kanja fit in that by character, by experience, and by identification. Mr. Speaker, we have witnessed a lot of security issues in this nation. And we need, Mr. Speaker, somebody who really is empathetic in character, somebody who is humility, somebody who is listening, somebody who is able to identify himself with the people that he is leading. One of the greatest problems that we have in the police leadership in this country is to have somebody on top there who has no clue of what the constables are going through out there. Mr. Speaker, the police of our security organs, right from the police post, they have no infrastructure. Some of them have very funny-looking uniforms. Some of them have no even weapons, and they are supposed to be police officers. I want to believe that arising from a police constable, 1985, to date, 39 years, this person can very easily identify himself with the personnel that he is leading. Because some of the staff, the way they operate, is because there's somebody who is on top there has no empathy. He doesn't think about these people. Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that this person has a lot of discipline. He has manifested himself. He has shown leadership. He has shown that he can see what other people are seeing. More so, we need somebody who is able to listen to the members of the public, and that is Douglas Kanja. Personally, Mr. Speaker, I have had a work experience with Douglas Kanja. You know, I bought a Isiolo and Laikipia where cattle rustling is bad, and I have seen Mr. Douglas Kanja in operation, in uniform himself. So, Mr. Speaker, I join my colleagues that this is the only person I have seen in the recent past. My experience with the 3 former Inspector Generals, I don't want to repeat that, but I want to believe now the best man is now about to be confirmed as the Inspector General of Police. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Hussein Witan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Being a member of the Administration and Internal Security Committee, I can assure you that we have taken this nominee very seriously. We have taken him through very rigorous vetting. And what we have seen is that this is one person we can recommend for Kenyans. This is one person who can take this country to a higher level. This is one person who can see the interest of this country more than any other person. Douglas Kanja has served in this service for 39 years. 39 years from constable, when I was not even there, when I was maybe around 2-3 years old. And you can imagine serving from Lokichokio to Kilifi to Northeastern to Isiolo and everywhere, all the harsh areas where Kenyans call, the harsh areas. He served and he performed. I can assure you, when he served as the DIG, most of the members visited his office, the way he received them, the way he has taken action against the issues they raised, they can all be, a witness to what we have really forwarded to the National Assembly. We have vetted this man. We have checked on all the necessary requirements. This is one person whom we are sure that he will perform, change, the attitudes of the policemen, the servicemen, that is, the living standards, the housing. Police in this country are undergoing very serious challenges, especially in our areas in Northeastern Province. You can see police having, some of them spending even, in the cold, some of them without vehicles, and OCBD and OCS traveling, with the public means, with all those serious security challenges. This is one person we expect to change those kind of lifestyle and those kind of challenges. I want to request my colleagues to support us, because we have not approved this person just for the sake of who Kanja is, where he comes from, but we have approved him, you know, following his academics, following his experience, following his experience, you know, from the lowest level. We request you to approve so that he can start his duties as quickly as possible and change this country to the better. Thank you very much.
Very well. Before the next speaker, let me allow the Honorable Mutuse to just welcome the school from Makueni. And I give you 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, if you allow, I'll welcome the school and make my contribution so that we are timeous. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Honorable Mutuse. I've given you straight instructions. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to welcome Ndundune Secondary School. Ndundune Secondary School is a school within my constituency, particularly in Emali Molala ward. Ndundune in Kikamba means a red squirrel, and for sure the place has very fertile red soil. For the students and your teachers, this is the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, created by the Constitution to debate on issues that are of concern to you, particularly education, and we'll be working together to ensure that you get the best education and also to create the necessary environment so that when you get out of secondary school, you can go for higher education and as well get jobs in the labor markets. With those remarks, Mr. Speaker, we welcome Ndundune Secondary School graciously to the House, and also we support the appointment of Mr. Kanja for several reasons that we'll be stating, if you allow me. Mr. Speaker, 1 minute.
Order, order.
1 minute because
Take
I'm
your
on the mic.
seat. You have done the business that I gave you to do. Next to speak on this, and Honorable Mutuse, you must be very ordered. This is a house of rules and order. Let's have the next speaker making his comments on this, and these are people who have been waiting, and I want to tell the House that we have actually opened this debate, so we shall continue in the afternoon. So take your place and relax. Let's have the Honorable John Waweru.
Honorable Speaker, it would be sacrilegious of me to start without thanking the committee. The work that has been done by the committee led by the Honorable Tongoyo and the committee in Senate has been such a thorough job. We agree that this committee, the joint committee, were actually the gatekeepers for this plenary as they were preparing this report, a report that has been prepared so well and so professionally that even as we are debating it, we are debating a complete report. Mr. Speaker, I do thank and congratulate the Joint Committee of Senate and the National Assembly, and at the National Assembly led by the Honorable Tongoyo. Mr. Speaker, this report is covering all the important bases, and I would not want to belabor points that have been made here by members. I'd like to say that if we are seeking for professionalism, we have been given proof of how professional this gentleman is. If we are looking for integrity, they have gone through the lengths, they've gone to the lengths to ensure that this man is untainted, fresh, and ready to serve the Republic as an officer of the law. If we are looking for experience, this is a gentleman who joined the force 4 decades ago, has had an experience of a lifetime in the force. So we are not placing an individual from outside to the top of the police ranks, an individual who does not understand how the police service operates. Mr. Speaker, as Mr. Kanja comes to office, his work is cut out for him. Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed in the police service. Mr. Speaker, we are in a new world. We are talking about being in the 4th industrial revolution. We are talking at a time when we are talking about things like artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, data analytics. The point I'm making here, Mr. Speaker, is that even criminals have improved their techniques of crime. The people who do not mean well for this country have also improved the techniques of crime, Mr. Speaker. We are talking about new avenues of crime. We are talking about cyber crime. We are talking about cyber attacks. The point I'm making here, Mr. Speaker, is that the old techniques of policing will not hack it in this day and age. We are in an era where technology becomes an important component of policing. And as I say that Mr. Kanja's work is cut out for him, I mean that we might need to professionalize the police force by introducing new techniques, using available technology, the technology of today, to make sure that we incorporate it in policing. Mr. Speaker, the President of this Republic made a pledge to the nation before he was elected. He said that the moment he is sworn in, that the moment he puts down the Bible, he shall disengage the police force and the police service from the office of the president. He even freed up the resources of the police so that the police are independent in the operation. Mr. Speaker, as Mr. Kanja comes to office, he might need to come with innovative ways of mobilizing resources to ensure that the police force is able to mobilize resources beyond that in which we are getting today, so that the police force is able to do what is necessary. Mr. Speaker, when I say that Mr. Kanja's work is cut out for him, we also need to relook at past laws, decrees, and regulations that have been made. Mr. Speaker, the honorable members that you see in this house have their hands tied. These members know that the police are living in very bad conditions in their constituencies. But Mr. Speaker, there was a decree that was made that the NGCDF cannot construct police houses or police lines in police stations, Mr. Speaker. Some of these decrees, we need to relook at them, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there was an arm of the police called the administration police. The police were able to assist the national government officers in their work, Mr. Speaker. The moment the administration police were withdrawn from the chiefs, from the ACCs, from the DCCs, our Ngao officers were left exposed, Mr. Speaker. So when I say that Mr. Kanja's work is cut out, some of the work he has to do is to look at some of these existing policies, legislations, decrees, and regulations that have been made so that we can reverse them for the good of our republic and to improve the plight of our officers. Finally, Mr. Speaker, this new man at the helm has his work cut out in terms of stakeholder engagement. We are told that the police is one of the boogeymen in this country, that it is a punching bag. The police must find a new way of engaging the different publics. The public that is the citizen, the public that is parliament, the public that is the executive. So Mr. Kanja will also have to be a diplomat as he does a diplomatic roadshow to be able to showcase a new face of the police to the different stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, it has been mentioned here that yes, Mr. Kanja does come from a region, and that is true, Mr. Speaker. We can never run away from that. But Mr. Speaker, this cannot be taken to be a charge on an individual. Everybody comes from a region. But even as we talk about regions, there are people like us. It is said that to come to this Nairobi, you either came by bus or you came by birth. Some of us came to Nairobi by birth. We belong in Nairobi. We may have traditional or heritage areas that we came from. But where we came from, we cannot fit there if we were all told to go back to our home areas. We have to have an understanding, as we are having regional conversations, that even in your region, you have very many people who live in diaspora. And when you heighten up the discussion about where each and every person comes from, us who are people who live in diaspora, where shall we be running to? We do not know any other homes. So Mr. Kanja is not presented to this house as a man from the Morima. He is represented to us as a professional with integrity who has experience and an officer who is able to serve as the IG of the National Police Service. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I do submit. Yes.
Daktari Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the report of the Joint Committee. Mr. Speaker, I must commend the Joint Committee for the work they have done. They have actually looked at all the relevant areas. They have looked at the processes that need to be taken into consideration, and they have found that those are correct. They have looked at the constitutional requirement, and they have found that. And Mr. Speaker, on the experience and the other characters of Mr. Kanja, I do concur with what is in the report. I've interacted with this gentleman, and I think the committee is actually stating what is correct about him. Mr. Speaker, there's only one issue that the committee has addressed, which I think has come out that we look at into the future, and it affects him. It was the issue of the retirement age of the Inspector General. It does look that the law as it is now is silent on that. The committee says it is exempt, but it really not exempt. What it says, at above the Deputy Inspector General, there's no exclusion. He talks about below that they retire at 60. Above that, it doesn't. And I think that is a lacuna in the law that we should look at in the future. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, I find that Mr. Kanja can actually, from what is in the committee, for the work he has done, from what members have said here, he actually fits the bill. And he really has to realize, Mr. Speaker, that the police is the most important unit in terms of internal security. You can have an army, you can have a strong army, but that does not really secure internal security. It is the police, the interaction with the civil society and with the people that really secures. And the police is extremely important in the criminal justice system. If they do not get out the investigations and the evidence properly, the criminal justice system will not work. We also know that Mr. Kanja will face the challenges, and one of the challenges is actually the welfare of the police officers. We all know, and all of us saying that even their accommodation is not correct. We are also aware that there's a lot of homicide and even suicide amongst the police officers. This is a challenge. It indicates that there is some distress in their areas of work, the conditions of work, and I think that is something he will have to address. Mr. Speaker, there is also a challenge of the perception of what the police like in terms of corruption. I think that is what he will have to address. There may be reality in it, and that will have to be addressed administratively and legally as required, and we know he is capable of that. But also the perception. And another issue that really will change is the conduct of the police in relation to upholding the constitutional right during civil strife. This has not come out well. The way they have dealt with people during demonstrations that are legal, the use of what I'll call lethal force, the abductions that we have seen, we can't blame one man on this, but it is in the force. And now that when he takes up this job, I think that's thing that he should really address. And the general conduct of the police and the attitudes towards the law, the police should see themselves as a service, as friends of the people. If you're walking in the street and you see a policeman, the correct attitude would be, that is somebody I can go to for safety, not that that is somebody that is likely to harm me. I know he's been in the service, and as a person he has done well, but these are the challenges that he has to address. And therefore, with that, Mr. Speaker, I support the report of the committee.
Honorable Soro, you've been waiting.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also want to join my colleagues in supporting the committee report about the nomination of one Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho. Honorable Speaker, this is one of the rare occasions where an officer, a career officer, is being supported across the political divide. It is quite shocking that a police officer is receiving overwhelming support from members of this House from both sides of the aisle. But, Honorable Speaker, there is one thing that has that really people raised upon the appointment and the nomination, or upon the nomination for consideration of one Mr. Kanja, Honorable Speaker, and that is the issue of age. But even before we get to that issue of age, Honorable Speaker, I don't think the National Police Service Commission, and indeed the appointing authority, could get a better person to serve in this capacity. A career public servant, a career police officer, who's risen through the ranks from a police constable all through. He's actually done nothing in his life other than policing or doing police work. This is a person that has served this country with no single disciplinary case. You can imagine. It is quite uncommon for a police officer. And you'll agree with me, Honorable Speaker, that at the time Honorable Kanja was, Mr. Kanja was joining the service, it was at the time we had a police force, not the police service. At the time when the police officers had the temptations to use force, had power to arrest you. They had power to put you in remand, to arrest you for merely having a black nose or big nose and say, you look like you do not have an ID. They ask for an ID, you provide, they say, okay, give us now kitambulisho, give us this and this. They used to, because of that old culture of the police force. But this police officer, Honorable Speaker, has been in service without a single complaint from the member of the public, from any member of the public in regard to his service. We couldn't get, I don't think the appointing authority could have gotten a better person to serve as the Inspector General of Police. But more important, Honorable Speaker, look at the personality of Mr. Kanja. Look at his demeanor. He's appeared on media to address several issues of national interest. Look at the way he presents himself. With a lot of composure, extreme maturity display, and commitment to his work. This is the best person, Honorable Speaker, for this work. Then now, much work will have done the smallest part of our work to have him passed in this house. But much work is needed of him going forward. Number one, he has a lot on his table. Even as we talk about, police brutality, sometimes we raise issues about the way the police officers conduct themselves, which of course they haven't changed. Today, Honorable Speaker, I need to raise, to speak from the other side, Honorable Speaker, that Mr. Kanja has got a higher responsibility to take care of his officers. The morale in the police service is going down. Some senior officers, the inspectors, the chief inspectors, Honorable Speaker, some of them they still harass the junior officers. The way the officers live, the way the way they operate, the places they live in, Honorable Speaker, is still deplorable. Mr. Kanja has a responsibility to defend them before the National Police Service Commission, and I'm sure that is what some members want to raise an objection over, that as the head, because everything rises and falls on leadership, he has that responsibility to reinstate the morale of the junior police officers. At least much of the work in terms of their salary has been reviewed by this House and the President, but still much needs to be done as far as morale is concerned. But again, more important, Honorable Speaker, Article 49 is not well executed by police officers. Article 49 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, provides that the rights of arrested persons, that when you arrest a person, you need to tell them why you've arrested them, you need to listen to them, then you give them a right to call any person that they may deem fit. But still to date, young people, young jobless people in the streets get arrested and then they are still told, utaongea mbele. Such are the disciplinary things that the Honorable Mr. Kanja needs now to check and teach his junior officers, that you don't just move around. We have now moved from the police force. It is now a police service. It doesn't cost you much as a police officer to talk to your fellow Kenyan in a soft language. Really, why would you harass people and tell them, utaongea mbele? So such are the things that we really need to review, Honorable Speaker, going forward. But on the age issue that I had said earlier, Honorable Speaker, Article 45 of the Constitution and Section 11 of the National Police Service, Honorable Speaker, does not, in as much as it provides qualifications and the appointments of the IG, it is still silent on the age matter. It's silent. So he is virtually 61, but the provisions of the law are still silent. Of course, people will challenge us that there is Rule 70, Honorable Speaker, of the Public Service Regulations that, of course, talks about the public servants, mandatory age being 60. But again, that is public service, public servant. Then, that is separate, doesn't apply on the IG because there is an element of the definition of who qualifies to be a public servant or who qualifies in that particular provision. And then now that, of course, is provided for under Article 260 of the Constitution, which then now defines who then is to be called a state officer, Honorable Speaker. I mean Article 234, sorry. So, Honorable Speaker, with those very, very many remarks, I implore on this House to expedite this process and have Mr. Kanja passed so that we can have a substantive IG of the police. Because there has been a debate, on orders of the court, being defied by the acting Inspector General of Police. I mean, now we are going to have a substantive one because we really need not to delve into such matters. But again, we also advise the police and the judiciary that we all maintain our independence. The police unit is independent in terms of the operations, and the judiciary is also independent because there is a delicate balance. At one point, you hear a judge complaining about the withdrawal of security officers, and on the other side, they say they are independent. When the police the Inspector General comes and says, we are independent, it also raises issue. Those instruments or those institutions that have been set by the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, are independent in their own rights. The judiciary is independent and the police is independent. But again, Honorable Speaker, even as a court officer, it's important, of course, for us to also, because I speak now as a court officer, as an advocate of the High Court, it's important for people to obey court orders. But again, we also need not to personalize. And this I really must say, that judicial activism should also stop. We need not to personalize public service. If in the place of the IG sends the DIG to represent him, because that is public service. I mean, that should also be taken in. You can't just say, now that, I simply want the IG. What happens of the DIG? Because we have the IG, then we have a DIG in charge of the AP, then we have another DIG in charge of the regular police. It's still, I can't really define how a judicial officer can say, fine, if the DG has been, the DIG has been set.
You have deviated. There's a point of order here now. Yes, what's your point of order?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member.
I respect Mr. Soro, but you see, when a mistake is done, it is wrong for us as a house to defend it. The judge had the platform of seeking whoever he wanted to come. And really, you are out of order to say that the alternative was okay. I think that is wrong from this house to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I really still do not understand the point of order. Well, I was simply making my case that in public service, in my place, if I am called upon by any senior officer in government, Honorable Speaker, and I opt to send Honorable Naomi, Honorable Speaker, I'll be right to send Honorable Naomi because we are within the public service.
Soro,
but what I would say, even in conclusion on that line, Honorable Speaker, the acting IG still has a window. He was given 7 days, and we really need to delve that because the 7 days have not lapsed. Nobody should actually blow a unnecessary trumpet as far as his wars are concerned. But with those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the report by the committee. Thank you very much.
Well, Minority Leader, as a ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I will be very brief and short. Mr. Speaker, on this matter, Mr. Speaker, this is one of the approval or the appointments that in this House you say give it a chance, Mr. Speaker. It's an approval that you can describe, let's give it a chance, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, why do I say so? Mr. Speaker, since the new constitution came in place, I don't think this country has gotten it yet right in the appointment of an Inspector General, Mr. Speaker. As you're aware, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution, when it was enacted, was very clear on how, Mr. Speaker, what is this market going on here?
Order, Elachi. I know that matter is juicy of court orders, but please, order. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when the new constitution came into place, the criteria of getting a new IG was very clear, Mr. Speaker. And the office of the Inspector General was made a constitutional office, Mr. Speaker. But what happened? Through legislation, Mr. Speaker, this House changed the method of appointment of a new Inspector General. What was emphasized in the Constitution was that the National Police Service Commission, which is also an independent commission, was supposed to advertise in the dailies, in the media, for people to apply who wants to become the Inspector General of Kenya. Then after that, the National Police Service Commission was supposed to shortlist and come up with a few number that they can interview and then recommend names to the President, Mr. Speaker. We sat in this House in one afternoon and we changed. And we went back to the old way of doing things, where the President now nominates someone, then it's taken to the commission, then like this, like that, then the same person comes to this House to be approved, Mr. Speaker. That is not what the new Constitution was thinking about. Then we went down even to the deputy DIGs, who are not even vetted by anybody, who are appointed directly by the President, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the biggest problems this country is facing is security. And if we don't get it right, we shall continue having problems day in, day out, Mr. Speaker, and that is why investment will be a problem, because there is no investment without security. We want to have, with this, the new constitution changed our police force to a police service, Mr. Speaker. And there was a reason why that was done. Because people wanted an institution that provides services, not an institution that overloads on them, Mr. Speaker. Every year, every government that comes into place, Mr. Speaker, talks about police reforms, but nothing happens. It's just the word. It's just the statement. It ends there. We are going to reform the police. We are going to have a responsive police. We are going to have, when you see our policemen in this era, in this time, Mr. Speaker, carrying rungus in town, Mr. Speaker, it's shame. Very shame. They are carrying rungus to beat up citizens, Mr. Speaker. Well, how can that happen, Mr. Speaker, in this era of today? My last thing is, Mr. Speaker, the new police Inspector General must come and address the welfare of the policemen of this country, Mr. Speaker. The kind of places our policemen stay and live with their families, Mr. Speaker, no one can accept to live in that situation who is a member of this House, Mr. Speaker. That issue must be addressed conclusively if the new Inspector General is to leave any legacy, Mr. Speaker. And I want to warn him there, from the floor of this House, if he is going into that office to be used politically, so that he can fight certain political groupings, like the way they fought Azimio when we were doing Mandamano, Mr. Speaker, then he is going for the wrong job. Even though now they are calling it broad-based, we want everybody who is not in broad-based, or who is in broad-based, or who is in broad-nusu, you should make sure that the citizens' rights are upheld, Mr. Speaker. And they are the law enforcers. It is the police that enforces the law, Mr. Speaker. They must enforce the law impartially. If they are going to side, if the Inspector General will be used to do certain sectarian orders, Mr. Speaker, we are going to take action against him in this House. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude now by saying that Mr. Kanja has been a career policeman. He has served 35 years in the police service, 39 years, I am told. I hope and pray that he will do things differently. I hope and pray that we are going to have a police service that is responsive. And for that reason, I am saying we do this approval based on what is called, let's give it a chance. I'm not saying that I am fully satisfied, but let's give him a chance. We see how he performs. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Jane Kagiri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja. Honorable Speaker, many a times in this House, our committee presents a report, and from the findings that they give us, you find yourself disagreeing with some. On this occasion, Honorable Speaker, I tend to agree with everything that has been said about Mr. Douglas Kanja. Honorable Speaker, I first got to know Mr. Douglas Kanja through a phone call when he was the GSU commandant. We never got to meet in person, but the request I had, he actually assisted me over the phone. Honorable Speaker, listening to the credentials of Mr. Kanja, this is a great man that we all need to learn a lot from. Number one, Honorable Speaker, the GSU Commandant, Mr. Kanja, still remains the same man as the DIG, and I believe will continue to be the same man as the Inspector General. Honorable Speaker, I believe there are only 4 areas I would want to speak to Mr. Kanja about. The first one, looking at his career progression, it is my hope and prayer that he will stand up and assist his junior officers in their welfare and in their growth in the police service, having had the experience of growing through the system. The second thing, Honorable Speaker, during the demonstrations, we watched a lot of miscommunication from the police service. Honorable Speaker, it is my hope and prayer that with Mr. Kanja in place as the Inspector General, we will have more communication with fellow Kenyans, explain to them what is required in demonstrations and what is not allowed, Mr. Speaker, so that in the eventuality, nobody finds themselves in the wrong side of the law when they are exercising their right. The third thing, Honorable Speaker, I would want to remind Mr. Kanja that Laikipia still remains a very sensitive area in terms of security. We are very grateful that we now have national police reservists. It is my hope and prayer again that he'll remember these young men and women who spend their nights protecting others and ensure that they get their medical cover as well as they get improved allowances, Honorable Speaker. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I would want to speak on the final thing, Honorable Speaker, I would actually want to say is with the great personality Mr. Kanja has, we hope he's going to have good collaboration with other agencies. And other agencies, I mean the IPOA, the Independent Police Oversight Authority. An authority that believes it is okay for a police officer to be injured, but it's not okay for the police officer to protect themselves. Honorable Speaker, that is one area that I hope is going to build a collaboration. Honorable Speaker, I conclude by saying, herein comes a great man. I wish Mr. Kanja all the best, and I know he's going to do this Kenya good. Thank you.
Is the Honorable Charles Ngusia in the House? In his absence, then we have the Honorable Karolio Mondi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't know how many minutes I have. Maybe 7, eh?
Donate for me too.
I'll try and be brief. People are asking me to make a donation of some of the minutes, but I'm not sure I have the power, but I will try and do my best. Mr. Speaker, my contribution will not be so much on the qualifications of the candidate. I just want to talk about the process of vetting and how we could improve it so that this House may the better be enabled to discharge its functions more effectively. Mr. Speaker, under our standing orders number 195 and 204, any member is actually entitled to participate in any vetting committee and raise questions. But I don't think most of the members are aware of it. And I would like to suggest that when we are dealing with vetting processes, then the leadership of the House, the Speaker as chair, should communicate to members and invite them if they have any issues to participate in the vetting process. But I would also like to note that when you read this report, it is short on a few issues. Like the way the integrity question is being answered is not exactly exhaustive. I think we need to have a deep dive into the working business and history of the nominees. I'm a little taken aback that what the House has been doing is purely to look at the letters from certain government agencies like EACC, CID, and the rest. And we do not exercise our powers under Article 125 of the Constitution to suo motu or in our own motion, call for information and access public records or private records dealing with business, work, tenure of most of these nominees. I think just to rely on letters from EACC and then to say, okay, we have no question on the integrity of a candidate is not good enough. I think we should go deeper and invoke Article 125 of the Constitution and truly interrogate the issue of integrity of most of the nominees that we bring to this House. Secondly, if you look at this report, even questions of domain knowledge are not very exhaustively discussed. And again, I think as a House, we need to do much better than this and interrogate, like every candidate, on their domain knowledge of the sectors that they are being tasked to manage. There is no reference on transnational crimes in this report, the capability of the candidate to deal with such issues, counterterrorism measures, all issues of corruption. They are just mentions. So it's not a very exhaustive report in my view. You cannot really look at the candidate and say, okay, we are getting the right person for the IG to deal with the current challenges in our criminal sector. Finally, because I want to save time, there is nothing in the report telling us about the nominees' planned policy initiatives to deal with fundamental issues in that sector. What kind of reforms does he intend to undertake? We don't have a flavor of what his views or what his philosophy on crime and crime preventions are. There's nothing about the welfare. What are his views about welfare of police officers? Issues to do with value for money as an administrator, rationalization of public expenditure, suppression of corruption, even how he intends to actualize Article 10 and Chapter 6 of the Constitution and make the police force corruption-free. There are so many issues that are missing in the report, Mr. Speaker, and I would really urge the House and the leadership to look into the question as to how we conduct our vetting of nominees and see how we can make this a truly interrogative and productive process, so that we don't just undertake perfunctory functions, bring reports here, and we then endorse. But nonetheless, I don't know this gentleman. I have no views on him. I don't have a report that can enable me to make very informed decisions about him, and I leave the matter as that. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Minority Whip, just take a bite of the 2 minutes. Proceed. Order, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important report, as I congratulate the committee for doing great work in doing the analysis and everything and giving us this good report that will guide this House in making this great decision. I also want to say that Douglas Kanja is somebody I have interacted with. He's a humble person who listens to people and who also acts on time. And because of time, I may not be able to say all that I wanted to say, but the areas that he needs to give attention are the following: corruption, abductions of people, homicide is getting worse in our country, and then the police fraternity needs a lot of attention, and their welfare, their families. Many police officers have committed suicide and have also killed or done a lot of harm to their families. He needs to give a lot of attention, proper counseling to be set aside, and their welfare to be put into consideration, so that we can have police officers who are able to guard the nation and to give the service to the people when they are all happy with the services that they are getting. I want to say that we have a lot of hope in him and pray that he will soon take up the office. Thank you.
Alice Nganga, discretion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to add my voice to this important report. First, I want to thank the Committee on Administration and Internal Security, as well as the Senate, for coming up with this report. Chair, Honorable Speaker, when I looked into this report, I can tell you this gentleman is qualified to lead this nation as Inspector General. He's very capable, he's very experienced, he's up to the task, he's very dedicated. His public relation, I did not know Mr. Kanja until there was a situation in my constituency. And just a pastor from that place told me that he has a Kanja's number, and he said that I want to call him, he will pick. And believe you me, he picked that phone call without knowing who is calling. So I can say his public relation is up to the task, and he will be able to do this work. In integrity, when it comes to matters to do with integrity, our constitution stipulates that you are supposed to go clearance from various departments of this nation. And we have seen from this report that KRA cleared him, EACC cleared him, ODPP cleared him, DCI cleared him. And Honorable Speaker, And you know, this is a man who has been in this force since he was 20, for the last 30 years. And we did not hear any incidences that has happened where he was serving. All what we can say, and you have seen he has grown from the ranks, from low level to where he is today. And we have seen when we are going through this report, there was no godfather, there was no godmother to push him. It is him and his work and his God, and he has made it to this far. What we can do is to wish him well. We tell him Kenyans are really waiting for him. His tray is full. We need to see this experience of that years, what he's going to do with this. I know he's very sagacious. He can take this country to the next level. All we need to do this time is to wish him well. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
We may be upstanding. Honorable members, and the time being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, 18 September 2024 at 2:30 p.m.